Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's Tuesday. Welcome to my Icecast server. We're gonna be playing Ween bootlegs all day. No? Hang on, what is this? Oh, wait, this is the Jeff Gerstmann Show. It's a podcast about video games. Live here on the Jeff Gerstmann Podcast Network. Whoa. Still here. What's going on? Hi. I'm your host, Jeff Gerstmann, here for this week's installment of the program. Here to broadcast to you the latest and greatest information about video games that there is known to man. Someday someone else will start a video game podcast, and then there'll be some kind of, I don't know. But for now, this is it. This is the only one. I'm pretty sure that's true. What's going on? It's a big week around these parts. This is school starting this week. This is my daughter's going to go start school. Before, my wife went to go see her family for a day here and took the baby, and so yesterday it was me and the two older kids, my son, he's just about 3, and my daughter, who just turned 5, hanging out. And it's real hot. It's like 95, 96 degrees. So we tried going outside for a little bit, but just I decided we would have an inside day. I decided Daddy's going to answer some emails, so why don't we hang out inside? And my daughter has been much more curious about video games lately, as if you've been following the show, then you know this. And so she needed something extra. She needed something else. The Peppa Pig game was no longer doing it. She's been playing, I have had to play quite a lot of it, but she's been playing Yoshi's Woolly World on the 3DS. And she's okay at it. Like all the running and jumping stuff that she was having trouble with 6 months ago, like jumping and running and moving at the same time to jump in a direction. She is much better at that sort of stuff, and she's been playing a little bit of the Mario, the Bowser's Fury add-on for Mario, and whatever the original game was there. She'd been playing some of that, but it's exposing a lot of stuff that, like, hey, there's just a lot of things in games that, like, if you can't read or you're just not clear on the concept going in, you're gonna have a little bit of trouble. She has been playing the first world of that Mario game over and over and over again because she keeps picking the wrong save on the Switch. And so she keeps starting a new game and overriding a save that, like, because and she gets it, and she's in trouble in the exact same spots. And so she'll hand it to me and go, "Can you get me past this?" And I'll see it and go, "We finished these levels. I don't want to and I'll quit and try to find the save that's in World 2. And then she'll mess around in World 2 for a while and lose interest, and then the cycle repeats. We're now going through this with this Yoshi 3DS game, in which I am now being forced against my will to play quite a bit of this Yoshi game for 3DS. It is every bit as terrible as Yoshi's Island. It is just it's conceptually similar. Like, it's meant to be, like a sequel of sorts, right? Everything about the way you throw eggs, or I guess in this case dogs, are you throwing wool dogs in this one? Whatever the hell is going on. Everything about it fucking sucks. Like Yoshi cocking back with an egg, and then this stupid icon appears on the screen and slowly goes, and you're like, get done with it. I'm trying to shoot something straight up. I just stand here and wait. Meanwhile, enemies are, like, still moving. It's not like everything, so it's like the balance between, like, waiting for this stupid thing to aim in the right direction combined with the rest of the dude, I hate it. It is such a terrible game. But whatever, it's interesting to play a bunch of it, because I did not play that 3DS game when it came out, because why would I? And now playing it now after all these years and being like, oh yeah, no, this is pretty much just everything I don't like about Yoshi's Island all over again. Yep. Great. Only now it's wool. But whatever, we're having a good time together, and that's the part that matters. Sometimes I worry that like my daughter is playing a lot of bad video games, and I don't want to step in. I don't, like I'm handing her a 3DS that has a lot of games installed on it, and just kind of letting her do her thing. And so she's finding that's how she discovered Cooking Mama and played a bunch of that for a while, and then I ended up playing quite a lot of that, and now she's on to Yoshi. But yesterday we needed to kick it up a notch, and so I turned on the old PlayStation 5, and on their, I don't know if it's like whatever tier of service it is on, I don't know. But I grabbed a Paw Patrol game. Which one? I should look it up because I know that there are multiple games in the Paw Patrol franchise. The kids are not that into Paw Patrol. They were into it for a long time and then kind of just fell off. But like still kind of vaguely into it, I guess I would say. No, I can't. There's so many mobile apps here. Let's type PS5. What does that come back with? I'm trying to find the exact name of this game. It is not Paw Patrol World, which looks like it maybe that's a better game. I don't know. World-sized fund, it says on Amazon.com. Apparently there's a Paw Patrol driving game. Okay, here it is. Paw Patrol is this it? Paw Patrol Mighty Pups Save Adventure Bay? How many fucking Paw Patrol games have they made for this fucking thing? Good God, man. I know it has the word adventure in it. I remember that. Anyway. It's a dismal, miserable, awful video game. She played it. She's played it start to finish. She finished every level. And then now is just playing. There's like a mini games menu where you can just kind of do these really bad mini games over and over again. And so she's doing that. And it's interesting in a way because, she hasn't played enough games to really know any better. But also, like, I'm watching the spots where she gets stuck and seeing the things that are tripping her up. And I'm looking at it and going like, there's no reason this game needs to be this way. So it's a kind of a it's not diagonally isometric, but it is kind of this 3/4 view, like more or less a top-down view. It's you and you control two dogs. You hit a button to swap between them, and you walk around this level and collect bones. And that's it, man. Like that's not it. There are occasionally little mini games that pop up in the middle that require you to switch to the appropriate dog and hit a button. And so, like, one dog is like, everyone says like the Paw Patrol is like, oh, it's propaganda. It's like whatever. Like, they're superheroes. One of them is a cop. The rest of them are like construction worker dog and like snow rescue dog and firefighter dog. Dalmatian. It's like it's not. It is not nearly like, I know it's all fun and games to be like, oh, Paw Patrol is propaganda. Like it's fun. We're all having fun. I have had fun in that way as well. But really, as someone who has watched a lot of it, and I mean a lot of it, it's not good, but it's like generic superhero stuff. It's like it's real, like, it might as well be Voltron. Like, there's people in trouble, except like with fewer bad guys. If anything, like the bad guy in Paw Patrol is an evil mayor who like rigged an election to win and like is fucking up the climate. And like the main bad guy is this piece of shit, like classic stereotypical rich guy in a top hat. Like, if you wanted to have like your fucking like broke brain rot fucking online take on Paw Patrol, you would probably actually say the opposite about a lot of stuff, especially the movie where the mayor, again, like literally fucking steals an election and is an absolute piece of shit. What I'm saying is people see what they want to see in Paw Patrol. But whatever. So the fucking game is so you control the different dogs, and so like, oh, in this one you hit a button here and then you have to do a little mini game to put out some fires. In here there's some garbage. In here there's like a swimming mini game because one of the dogs is a water loving dog, I guess. I don't know. But generally it is, here's this big uninspired environment. And in order to give you some sort of someone in the chat says, check out Rubble and Crew. Full disclosure, I work on Rubble and Crew. So Rubble and Crew is a spin-off about Rubble, the construction dog, and his family, who are also construction dogs. The kids have not taken to it, but yes, I am familiar. It seems good. It seems good. One time there weren't enough bikes. I think that's like the first episode. One time there weren't enough bikes, and so the construction dogs were asked to build a bigger bike shop. To which I would say, I mean, yeah, fucking, if you got the right permits, we'll build whatever the fuck you want, motherfucker. You know, but hey. Anyway. They build these big mindless levels and then just fill them full of floating, spinning bones. Like, it'll load up a level. Like, you think fucking Banjo-Kazooie is bad. This will load up, and then after it loads the level, in the upper left corner of the screen, it'll say, you have 0 of 800 bones. And in this level, they have put 800 motherfucking bones. In pretty much a dotted line, like you're walking around the level, and you get some from the mini game. So if you do well at the mini games, it'll be like, nah, you got 150 bones, but you are fucking boning out in this game. It is a nonstop bone zone inside of this Paw Patrol thing, and it is like the levels are so poorly designed that you can tell that like at some point they're like, well, we need to put more bones in here. And sometimes because you can't really see what's going on below you because of the way the camera is structured, and you can't rotate the camera because it's a kid's game and blah, 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 blah. Sometimes they just hide bones in spots where the camera will not see them unless you are explicitly going out of your way to find them. And that's not fun. That's a way for you to finish a level with 790 bones and go, well, fuck this. It's miserable. It is a absolutely miserable experience. And I don't know if my daughter skipped a final cutscene or something like that, but she finished the last level and it was just like dumped back to the menu. This same developer, I believe the same developer made the Peppa Pig game, which is better than this, to be honest. But still not amazing. But like I was complaining about this Paw Patrol game, and people were like, we're coming out of the woodwork being like, oh yeah, Outright Games are like, the developer is like notorious for all of the. I think they made the Bluey game as well. But it's like a lot of garbage. What they want is a Blue's Clues game, but Blue's Clues is kind of on its way out. My understanding is that they're going to finish up their final season here pretty soon, and then Blue's Clues and You, which is the current franchise for Blue's Clues, is going to perhaps be coming to an end. Which is a bummer because my son has become, well, whatever, we have all of it, so whatever, we can watch whatever fucking Blue's Clues for the rest of time. It's not a big deal. There's a whole, there's a lot of episodes of Blue's Clues, but at the same time, like, yeah, it seems like it's kind of coming to an end. They made a movie. I think it debuted on streaming. It wasn't something that went to theaters, probably just because of the timing and when it came out. But like, they have not made a Blue's Clues video game since the PlayStation 1, unless you have a V-Smile or something like that. There are I think there's browser games, but like Blue's Clues, the original run of Blue's Clues is so old that it was, it literally came out on PlayStation 1. And so at some point I'm going to have to show my kids this PS1 game. And we'll see how that all goes. Did they remove Blue's Clues and You from streaming for tax write-off purposes? Yeah. I was looking I was reading up on it earlier this week, and it seemed like the consensus is that they were going to come back for like the rest of this season, or like kids show seasons are not like normal television show seasons. It's just like, they're just like, fuck it, this one has 48 episodes, this one has 36, and whatever. but I think they're going to come back for another batch of episodes and then maybe call it. I'm not really sure. Blue's Clues is fine. I don't really. I got no beef with Blue's Clues. Yeah, Steve, the guy. Like, I was too old for all of it, so like I did not watch Blue's Clues until I had kids, and we've watched a lot of the original Blue's Clues. You watch enough Blue's Clues, you start to realize that the current Blue's Clues and You run has episodes that are actual remakes of episodes from the original run of Blue's Clues, which is fucking wild. Yeah, Steve is a real indie rock kind of guy. I mean, for the time that show was on and whatever else, like, it makes a ton of sense. Like, Josh, the current host, is like way more theater kid, I guess I would say. Like, he's definitely got like Broadway energy, and I think that was his background before he started hosting, was some stuff more like that. But like, they both make it work. The guy in the middle, Joe, or I guess his name is Donovan, but they called him Joe because you can't have a guy host a kid's show whose name is Donovan. People won't stand for it. There are laws. God damn it. And I think Joe gets a bum rap, man. He came in for like the last 2 seasons of that original run of Blue's Clues, and he is playing, like, clearly whoever like told him how to fucking do it, whoever told him how to do the show was like, go watch a lot of the show and then act exactly like Steve. And so it's a lot of like the mannerisms and all of this other stuff that you just go like, dude, this is wild. Like, watching him try to play the exact role the exact same way. And then over time, they kind of break from that a little bit, and he starts to kind of come into his own. And then, like, all of a sudden, they introduce this weird spin-off thing where Blue goes off to her room, and when Blue is in her room, she can speak, and she becomes a puppet, and it's fucking terrible. It's garbage. And you watch like 8 of those, and you go like, okay, I see why Blue's Clues came to an end, and not long after that, it was like done, and done for years, and then they eventually brought it back. With this current run of their like 4 seasons of whatever it is. But like, middle dude is fine. And he went on to appear in a lot of the, like, both of them, Steve and Joe, go on to appear in episodes of the new series, and they're both in the movie and all this other stuff. And it's very cute. And you wonder, like, do kids even, I mean, my kids do, because they watch a lot of the old Blue's Clues, and it's all, you know, like, time doesn't matter anymore. It all just exists. And so it all exists on the same continuum, right? And sometimes my son goes like, I want to see Joe. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll find you an episode with Joe. And sometimes he wants Steve, and sometimes he wants Josh. And those are the conversations we have. Oftentimes at 4:30 in the morning when he wakes up at a weird hour. But anyway, I have to try out this Blue's Clues video game at some point, which I understand is music-based. And I will probably give that a shot at some point and report back. But now that I'm seeing that there's like a dozen different fucking garbage ass Paw Patrol games for PlayStation 5, maybe I'll try more of those, because it's great to have your kids earning trophies for you. So she got a bunch of Paw Patrol trophies for me yesterday, and well, I've just got to keep the games coming, and you know, she'll happily play them. That's right. Also, yes, in the United Kingdom, they shot the same episodes of Blue's Clues, but with a different host. And they did that in multiple territories, I understand. I need to see that. I need to see these old Steve episodes shot with somebody else. I need to know. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about Thank Goodness You're Here, as well as, I don't know, Spectre Divide, some other stuff, and we'll get into the news. But let's take a quick break. We'll come back and make it happen after this. No one wants to lose their hair, but for men, it can be very common. But now with Hims, the solution is simple. Try Hims Hair Loss Solutions, and you'll be joining hundreds of thousands of subscribers who got their flow back. All right, what is Hims? Hims provides access to a range of hair loss treatments that work, all from the comfort of your couch. You don't need to get out there and go see a doctor and go through a whole prescription process. All of this can be done online. And Hims makes treating hair loss simple. These are doctor-trusted treatment options, clinically proven ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. They have a lot of different varieties that you can take, personal chewables, you can have an oral, a spray, serum treatment options, so you can find what works best for you. The process is simple, and again, it's 100% online. You just answer a few questions, and a medical provider will determine if the treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment is sent directly to your door. It doesn't get more convenient than that. Hims has hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, so if you feel like you're losing a part of yourself with hair loss, get Hims. Maybe get some of that confidence back. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/Jeff. That's HIMS.com/Jeff for your personalized hair loss treatment options. hims.com/Jeff. Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. We're back. Let's talk about Great Britain. Old Blighty. I finally played Thank Goodness You're Here, which is out now. I played it on Steam. It's $20. It's from a studio known as Coal Supper, who made something previously that was called The Good Time Garden, which is free on Steam and is like... The Good Time Garden is like thematically, or I guess like conceptually similar. Thank Goodness You're Here, I think, is really amazing. It is a comedy game, and it is a joke factory. It is like a point and click game, sort of, where you are just clicking things and jokes come out, and it's a good time. It's not supremely difficult. It is not some big, action extravaganza or whatever. It is a delightful little thing. So it's not a point and click adventure because you are a character in the game. You're this tiny little man in a shirt and tie, and you're sent to the city on some mindless quest to talk to the mayor, and you are distracted from that, or you're waiting for that, and then the tiny man he kind of changes size over the course of the game depending on how big he needs to be, really. But he's kind of your icon in the game. He's kind of like your mouse pointer in a lot of ways, where you walk around as this tiny man and you have a button that lets you kind of smack something. And so you walk up to people and hit this button, and then their dialogue falls out of them. That's how you interact with objects. It's how do you need to break open a dumpster? Hit it a few times. Do you need to do you need to pop something? You can jump as well, so you can kind of jump up and down on something, and some things require that to move forward. But it's basically like, hey, here's this sort of thing where you're walking around this world and you are tapping on all of this stuff, and then the dialogue is coming out. You're solving people's problems, and it's like one of the funnier bits. I think the whole thing is really funny. It is very British. I like it. I wonder if there would be people that are in the area that this is meant to be, like kind of like Northern England sort of style thing, if they would just look at it and go like, well, yeah, I don't know. Like it's funny, but I wonder like how much of the comedy is because it is just straight up British, and because the dialogue is written in that kind of charmingly off-kilter British slangish sort of way. And I think that like here in the States, here in the colonies, I think people that like that stuff are way more into it than Bryn is British, and she's saying it didn't work on me nearly as well as it did on you. Yeah, I totally, like, that's the thing is like it. I wonder, but it is, at the end of the day, you are kind of solving people's problems in the weirdest ways possible. I had to help someone make a meat pie. And you kind of stumble into this stuff. You have vague like goals. Like there's no quest list. There's no like, hey, what are you, like what am I doing next? Like what do I need to do this? Like people will tell you to get things, but it's not like it's on the side of the screen and go like, you need to go. The closest thing that happened to that was a lunatic man in a dumpster told me I needed to find his birds and that he had 6 birds. And then he kicked me out of his dumpster and I had to go find them. And they were all right there. It was not hard to find them. But it was a situation where you have to walk up and kind of slap each one of the birds and then they salute and they fly away. As they do, of course. And at one point I was like, was that 5 or is that 6? I don't remember. I don't know. But that's the most like kill 10 rats that I think the game has been. But it's like, here's a man with his hand stuck in a grate because he's looking for a coin, and then the process of getting him unstuck results in a big hole in the ground, and then you find yourself traveling through, your little man is traveling through these pipes. At one point you get swallowed by a piece of, this is all sounds probably like fucking insanity, but at one point you kind of get swallowed by a piece of meat and you're trapped inside a meat world, and then there's like guys made of meat products inside the meat world, and they all have these horrendous stories about death that they're telling you as you activate them. You walk up and slap the meat, and then they fucking say something really terrible and then disappear. And to get out of the meat world, you have to find them all and hear all their stories and make them disappear, and then a whole thing opens up. And then that leads into a situation where you are popped out at the meat pie store as this piece of meat, and the guy goes, "Oh, you brought the meat, great!" Like nothing weird about it. Like the best thing about this game that I think ties it into, it has that look and feel of really classic British comedy. By that I mean the stuff that traveled to the US and traveled well. Which to me, what do you got, like, classically speaking, Monty Python probably. But this gets absurd in the way that the animations in Monty Python would get, but it's not, I don't know. It's there's something about that comparison that is a little weird, but that sort of like very dry, talky comedy, wordplay, wordy type of British comedy. Not Little Britain. Yes. And everyone plays it completely deadpan, like this is all the most normal thing that's happened. And so it's just like, okay, the oil from the fryer at the chip shop is spouting out of the town's fountain and burning people alive and coating them in, like they're all getting breaded like an order of chips, or order of fish and chips. No one thinks anything other than the screaming of being burned by the hot oil and a child being turned into an order of chips. That it all gets played pretty straight. But yeah, sort of like Wadham, like it's a machine. Like this game in a lot of ways is a machine. You pay your money, you fire it up, and you poke at it, and jokes fall out of it. And you progress through it, and there is a through line and something of a story, and like you are getting to different episodes as you're solving people's problems, and new problems are being unfolded in front of you. And that stuff is very rewarding in a like very video gamey kind of way, but it really is, you just kind of keep poking at it and fun stuff falls out of it. And that is the best part about it. And there's just, it's a little bit of slapstick, a little bit of like, violence played in like a deadpan sort of way. Not entirely unlike, I mean, the young ones kind of trafficked in that a little bit, I guess I would say, right? Like that type of, extreme violence mixed with comedy. But But yeah, it's I mean, it is. I don't mean to say that it is like overly anarchist in the way that an episode of Young Ones. Yeah, maybe Bottom is a better reference point for that sort of stuff. But it is just that silly kind of violence happening in the middle of all this stuff. You're just like, this is a ridiculous situation. And it's a number of very ridiculous. All right. Well, whatever. I could sit here and try to explain jokes to you for the next hour and a half, but that would be stupid. There's a video of it up on YouTube. I played a chunk of it last week, and there's a video of that up on YouTube right now. You should check it out. If any of that sounds at all interesting to you, of like, hey, here's this thing, and if we poke at this, British comedy falls out of it, it's probably very much up your alley. I also, it is very well made, and because it's not, when I like to say that like making games funny is really hard, and someone pointed out that wasn't always the case, because we had stuff like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and there was a lot of stuff coming out years ago. Day of the Tentacle is a funny game. Sam and Max Hit the Road is a funny game. But many of those games, Sam and Max did, but many of these games are old enough that the dialogue was not spoken. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a text adventure. The original Maniac Mansion and all that was you reading. Later games, the sequel, Day of the Tentacle, had its CD-ROM version with speech, and then Sam and Max did have speech. But like when you are a player walking around an environment and you are clicking the button that makes the dialogue start and makes the dialogue advance, so much of comedy is in timing, right? And making that timing work, getting that timing to be right so that the joke is actually funny and that it didn't accidentally get dragged out, a beat and a half too long, and you're like, all right. And it just doesn't land the same way. Comedy has a rhythm to it when it's done well. And this is done well. And a lot of that is because, it is like relatively low on the interactivity, right? You are kind of poking at a thing. And then it is playing back the dialogue. It is like, oh, you want this joke? Oh, here it is. And it's serving it up to you, and you watch it and go, yes. But because of that, they get to control all the timing and all of the other stuff. Games in this kind of middle period, that we're trying to either do too much, or just like had load times and just like weird technical reasons where it's like, just for whatever reason, these two lines, how PlayStation 1 games used to sound when players were talking to each other. Like it's just two different people in other parts of the world, and then they just kind of throw the lines together. But because it's like the one line to the next, there's always a little bit too much space between them, and it doesn't actually feel like people speaking to each other anymore. It feels like you're watching a video game cutscene, which is a very unto itself sort of thing. This doesn't suffer from that problem. When I say that when comedy in a lot of games can be difficult, I mean, that's what I'm talking about, is like that era where a lot of the timing was just shitty, but it was shitty on all dialogue, not just comedic dialogue, I guess I would say. It's a wonderful little thing. I'm glad I finally played it. I have not finished it yet. Right now, there's a cow who is sick, and I need to bring it chips from the chip shop. Because I need some milk for a guy who can't get out of bed because he's averse to that, and who isn't. And he had a very creepy long arm. It's a very silly game. It's a very wonderful little thing. Go take a look at it, and I think you'll know immediately. You'll watch 5 minutes of this and be like, okay, one way or the other. I think you'll go like, I don't see what the point is here, or you'll be like, okay, I'm turning this off so that I'm just gonna go play this for myself. Not a super long thing. That's the impression. I'm not quite done with it, but it doesn't feel like there's necessarily a ton left to do either. A few like kind of missable things, at least on the achievement list, where it's like, oh, if you slam all of the mailboxes in this game, then there's a trophy or whatever for breaking all the mailboxes, I guess. What else? I feel like I signed up to review cigarettes. I feel like at some point I said, I'm going to write a review of cigarettes for you, and expected there to be zero repercussions from that. I'm still fucking around with the First Defendant. The First Descendant. Which is not a game I would recommend. At all. Everything I said in the review of that game, I think absolutely stands. And yet, I have continued to play it. It is... like, it's fun reading their patch notes and all this other stuff, because like they're clearly trying to get people to stay playing it. And so it's a lot like the patch notes are fun, because it's a lot of like, we've noticed that a lot of players are doing this really repetitive thing to farm this content, to farm this specific type of drop or whatever from this mission. We're making changes, like, and they're making changes not to make the items more rare, or to stop that type of behavior. Instead, they're just like, people seem to be having fun running in circles in this cave, so we're gonna find ways to, like, maybe you won't get as much out of it, but we still want that to be a valid play style if that's what you want to do. And it's like, it just smacks of desperation. They rolled out their like summertime fucking I didn't realize it at the time. I should have. It's a game. So this game is sort of like Warframe, or I guess maybe you could, drop Genshin Impact in here, but basically like you play as different characters, and to play as those characters, you either need to craft them with drops that are, at sometimes exceedingly rare, or you need to buy them for money. And they will sell you more expensive versions of some of the characters that come with fancier skins. And I want to say, like, they're like 8% more powerful. You just like limited increase in power. And some of those versions of the characters, you can buy a package that comes with like a skin and some additional stuff for this ultimate version of the character that is like straight up $100. It's fucking crazy. It's gross. But it's like, yeah, this feels like a game made by people who played Destiny and got really bummed out when Bungie took the loot caves away and said, well, we're keeping the loot caves in. There's a character in the game she's electric. All the characters have affinities and stuff. Sorry, let me back up. I didn't realize it at the time. The game has all these different characters you can play as. Most of them are ladies. There are some dudes in there, but who cares? They started selling swimwear for some of these ladies, and it's like skimpy in a way that I'm like, oh, this is the game you're making. And then you go and look at the community tab on Steam, and you're like, oh, people have made fucking versions of the water character, and they've made her ass even bigger. They decided they drew an even bigger ass on this character. Okay, this is okay. This is the thing you're making. I get it. I get it now. You're making the big weird ass lady game, which I'm all for, to be honest. But I will say, in game, the asses are not as big as these JPEGs that are on the community tab of Steam. Step it up. The swimwear is skimpy and revealing in a way that you see a vagina crease in the swimwear. in a way that I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, it's fine, right? Like, whatever, right? But like, it's there, and you just go like, what? Who is this for? What the? I mean, I know who it's for, but like, what? All right, sure. It's just that, yeah, I don't know, man. It was just a very like I was not expecting that in the when I saw the swimwear, like plainly visible from a distance, but also when you spawn in to the town, like the social area, there's like 20 or 30 characters just kind of standing there in the same spot, and the camera angle is such that you'll just see characters from like low weird angles, and so like sometimes you're spawning into like all of these panty shots, and or like all, you know, and or as more and more people are buying the swimwear or whatever, it's just like, man, what are you doing? I mean, I know what you're doing, and like whatever, right? I mean, who cares? People should have their fucking pretty lady games. Who gives a shit? But it was just a weird thing to have like played this game for probably like 30 hours or so and be like, I don't know, man. They put a lot of time into the faces on these ladies. They made nice looking lady models. I don't know. I guess if you wanted like a bunch of anime style ladies in a video game, this is one of those. And I didn't really think too much of it. And then I was like, oh shit. Right. Like once I started seeing a little bit of the fan art, I was like, oh, you took these like cute lady anime-ish sort of models and then you put bigger asses on them. I mean, I'm all for it, but like, what the fuck? So I don't know, to see the game kind of lean back into that in a weird, like on top of everything else is just like, all right. I don't know, man. It is what it is. Like, whatever. I'm not like over here like fucking like, we've got to burn it to the ground. You know, like, who cares? But it's just like, it's just kind of fucking gross. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, you can, you know, the different characters will have their different fucking affinities and all this stuff. So like, there's one lady that you get. It's like usually it'll be the second character you get as part of the campaign, and she has an electric power that basically when she jumps and lands on the ground, it makes a big electric burst, and there's a bunch of other like big AoE attacks with this massive electric burst, and so players will play as Bunny and just fucking run in circles and kill everything in one hit, because you will eventually become overpowered for a lot of the content in the game, and that character is so well equipped to just fucking eliminate everything, and especially these, you know, to farm gear, or you're looking for very specific materials. Basically, I need 80 of these, I need 7 of these, I need 1 of these, and then I need 1 of this item that is rare and harder to find. And that might be like a 6% drop rate on a limited item that you need to go farm separately and blah, blah, blah. But it leads to a lot of situations where you're just like, okay, I need to go run this mission. And then you get there and you see like, oh, there's like 3 other people here also running this mission over and over again. You know what it is. Let's stand here and do it. And so you go to the mission, and the only thing you really need to do to join a mission is just like shoot one of the enemies that's in the mission area once the mission is active, and it will automatically join you to the team that's doing the mission. It's very convenient that way. But like, you'll have like 1 or 2 of these bunny characters there, and they're just like wiping things out as they're spawning. Like, if you wanted to hit something, you would have to be very quick on the draw and know exactly where the spawns are, which if you're running these missions 20 times in a fucking row looking for a rare drop, you will. And you're just like getting there, joining the mission, letting them do all the work, and then waiting to see if the slot machine comes up with what you need or not. And if it doesn't, you hope that they don't have it either and that they're going to run it again so that you can just very quickly rejoin the mission with them, do it again, let them kill everyone. You're getting XP for the kills. You're watching all the fucking shit drop, and you're just going like, all right, okay. Now that one didn't do it either. All right, maybe this one. Maybe this one. And so I did this like 12 times. I had a gun that I was trying to level up to maximum gunness. You feed a gun. You feed guns to your other guns. to level up the unique ability of your guns, and I wanted to max level the gun, so I needed 4 more of those guns in order to do that. And so I found myself doing these 4 missions to get these 4 pieces that you forge into the gun, but I needed 4 of each piece. Anyway. It's a lot of standing around, letting other people do the work. And then if they're not there, like, I can also fucking wipe shit out super fucking fast because I've prestiged like 4 fucking times in this game. And like, I don't know, like, and people are all over the place on it. Some people complain like, oh, this character's overpowered and they're sucking all the fun out of the game. But also, it's not fucking fun to make these like enemies spawn over and over again and shoot them yourself either. And so it's created this problem where they're like, oh, well, we see that as like, you know, we don't necessarily want to take away the fun of these players. We're looking at the situation, but we don't necessarily. And so the developers are really wishy-washy on wanting to take that out because that's what everyone is fucking doing. But the only reason they're doing it is because of this kind of other obviously related problem of like the game is built around RNG on these fucking drops. And so they've created a world where the way to get what you're looking for is to fucking run a mission over and over again. And so if there's a character that simplifies that process to the point where even if you as one of the other characters can just fucking stand there and barely play the game, everyone is going to take the path of least resistance on this. And instead of going like, oh shit, we've got a major problem with our game, we need to, you know, or and maybe this is to their credit, because I think if they went the other way and said, oh, we're going to put a stop to that because you need to be playing these missions, I would have uninstalled it by now. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to like, yeah, I'm looking for an item with like what, a 13% drop rate or something, and I have to run this mission over and over again. I'm not going to run around and kill all these fucking guys. It's trivial either way you look at it, but at least this way, I can fucking like do minimal work. Like I literally was eating a fucking sandwich while playing the goddamn game a couple of days ago. And the right answer is don't play it. I mean, again, like I wrote a full review about why you shouldn't play this game, and yet because I played it, because like smoking, you don't like it at first, and then I'm like, well, I don't know, like I kind of want to. I mean, I'm just gonna listen to this JPEG Mafia album again, and well, you know, I need a dumb fucking video game to play while I do that, something I don't need to hear or think about because I want to focus on this music. I have found myself back into that game again. I decided that I want to get all of the achievements in this game, and I only need 1. That was the thing that happened. That was the thing that I kept, the reason I kind of kept playing the game. They released their financial reports recently. People are asking in the chat about like, hey, what's the, is this game actually successful? Their financials, what they've said about the game so far is that it is doing really well on console, which I think makes sense. It's available on the previous generation of consoles and current generation of consoles. It's all one shared world and whatever else. I could see it being like, you know, it's a third-person shooter. It's competent. I don't know. Like people played fucking Borderlands, right? You know, and not that Borderlands has like this like criminal, this borderline criminal level of like drop rate tables and all of this other stuff. I mean, there's some stuff in Borderlands that actually is really shitty when it comes to drops. Like if you really wanted to talk about it, but we don't. But like, you know, it's kind of that. Like this game is kind of Outriders, but the asses are bigger. I don't know. I like the ice lady. She shoots ice. It freezes people. It's like fun. There are like moments in the middle where you're like, I fucking did this little finger snap fucking ice cloud thing, and then I fucking went in and shot them in with this static electricity thing that popped them all. Like there are moments there where you're like, there's like kind of there's a decent game somewhere in the middle of all of that, but unfortunately it is fucking surrounded by absolute fucking sludge, dude. And to see them grapple with this, like, people running these same missions over and over again to try to get these drops and go like, well, we don't necessarily want to discourage that play by nerfing this character, but also we need, you know, like I'm fascinated to see what they will try to do to cater to the player base that they have found themselves with. Because you do see some people complaining about that stuff because they want a more active game. But also, I think the solution is like, hey, man, you made your drops really fucking... You made some absolute bullshit drop rates. There are some missions where you go and fucking finish the level and then you get a weird crystal and then you have to go beat a big boss before you can decode the crystal into an item. And when you decode the crystal, much like the way that you can kind of... It's the shaping process in Destiny 2, if you're familiar with it. It will decode into 5 or 6 different items, but one of them is always a 6% chance to decode into that one. You don't always want that one. Sometimes you want the one that's 38%. And that's a little bit easier to get. But you still have to go farm these fucking crystals, and all the crystals are numbered, and so you need... I need crystal number 67, but I need like 10 of them. Because I want to go play this boss fight 10 times so that I can decrypt these fucking things 10 times so I can do this. It's like every loop in the game is poison. Every single like gameplay loop, there's no like virtuous cycle here. It's like a fucking disaster one step after another. And so part of me is like fascinated by the fucking entire like car crash nature of it. And then there are these little moments where I'm like, you know what? Sometimes there's little bits of the combat. Like, unfortunately, almost all of the combat is totally trivial now because you level up to a point where you're like, like the big boss fights can be challenging, and they actually nerfed one of those encounters and it was the encounter that I could not beat no matter how many times I tried. So we'll see. I don't know. But it's just, I'm fucking so fascinated by this mess of a game. And so I've been chipping away at it here and there. And I suspect that like once I fucking get the last achievement, which you have to basically prestige 10 times, you have to reach level 40 and then use an item, which you have to craft, which you need materials for, but you need that item in order to prestige. And if you're familiar with Warframe, there's a concept in Warframe where you can kind of polarize your modification slots. In here, you can do a similar thing where you can like, oh, now I can equip more mods because I've decreased my mod limit because I've done this and this. And so you're not necessarily gaining levels anymore. The level curve is 1 to 40 over and over again. And then you're getting these like minuscule boosts like, well, since I prestiged and leveled this thing up, now I get, my skill cooldown is, 40% less. And, that's like meaningful because you're firing off your skills all the time and whatever. But it's like, it's not a massive, there's no change in that game where you're like, this is like a totally different video game. Unless you decide to just like totally play as a different character, which, you can do. It's just it's a mess. I don't know. And yet here I am, trapped. I have not spent any money on it. But I feel like I am within its fucking grasp the same way a cigarette smoker must feel. It's a bad feeling. But we're right around the corner from some bigger games coming out, so maybe that'll be the thing that breaks me off of this stuff. I've been messing with other stuff here and there. I haven't had time to try the thing. Just started this morning, but have you heard of this game, Spectre Divide? It's I guess a 3v3 kind of Counter-Strike like shooter. But the idea is that you are playing as 2 characters at the same time and you can swap between them. Which, when I watch the trailers for this thing and hear people talk about it, it's like, that doesn't sound good. But and yet people say, no, it's actually really cool how they do it. Like, there's an interesting idea here. This is a game, like, they started sending me a bunch of emails. So I am going to be interested in seeing how this game is, I guess, marketed. Every email I got about this game before they had announced it was about a bunch of pro player streamers, esports, whatevers that were involved in it. And it was the most off-putting thing It was one of the most off-putting pitches I think I've received for an upcoming video game. And I'm going to try to find, because there's a list, and it's not even like, hey, this guy is playing and helping us with this game. It's like, we've got a list of investors that includes this esports man and this esports man and this esports man. And you're like, okay, I don't think I care about that. What are you trying to? And so this pitch, before they had announced the game, before they had kind of said anything about the before they had said anything about what it was, they said it's a new tactical shooter from some of the developers behind Apex Legends, Valorant, Overwatch, Counter-Strike, Battlefield, and more. And so you're like, okay, a bunch of shooter people are working on a game. And they're not really saying anything other than that in terms of what the game is. And they're trying to pitch people on like, you really need to check out this game. But like, one of their bullet points was like, this game has the support of incredible investors, including Shroud, Tank, It's Timmy, Sacknull, Zed, and Carnage. On top of being an investor, Shroud has also taken a gameplay consultant role, working directly on enhancing the game. And I'm like, okay, what you're telling me is that you're paying, that people are going to invest in this game, and so they're going to be incentivized to stream it. Like, everything about this pitch makes it sound like the game is fucking terrible, right? It's just like, oh, okay. I don't like, okay. It seems like any time that you get a bunch of like big name streamer types involved in game development, and that Shroud guy has been, I mean, people have working in consultancy capacity like all the time. I think he has been a consultant for a number of years on different games over the years. And so I'm not saying like, I'm not saying these people have zero value as consultants or whatever else. But when your bullet point is, we've got these investors, like what you're telling me is like, okay, you're going to try to prop up your game by, whether it's profit sharing or whatever the hell you're doing with all of these streamers. And you're just like, okay. All right. That doesn't, like none of that makes the game sound good. But I have heard from at least one person, actually exactly one person since then, that is not a fucking lunatic, that said like, actually the thing they're making is pretty good. And so I do want to kind of check it out. But like everything about the story of this game sounds gross to me. And so like, I'll be curious going forward if it's just like, okay, because you've got these quote unquote investors involved, are they going to stream a ton of it? And is that what you're going to do to try to get this game over the hump and try to get it to stand out? Is you're like, okay, well, we've got It's Timmy playing it, so, you should play it too. Like that's kind of, sorry, it's not Tank, it's Tariq. I need to get my glasses fixed. I need to figure out my close monitor glasses. Anyway, yeah, their list. Yeah, it just, like, everything about that feels bad to me when it comes to like, hey, we're trying to launch a game and try to make a thing happen. And it's it has nothing to do with any of that particular list of people. Like, they're living their lives, doing their thing. They're running businesses. They're making choices. They're investing, blah, blah, whatever it is. It's more that, like, I think, that increasingly seems like, and I call it like, there's a high potential for it to be deceptive, right? When it's like, oh, these super popular streamers that sometimes have these really young audiences are just like, I'm going to hang out and play this hot new game that I'm an investor in. I don't know. Like, even with the disclosure, that starts to sound filthy if we've got, when you've got streamers with very young audiences. I think that ends up being weird, but whatever. Yeah, there's a ton of sponsorship. There's a lot of other things happening around games and money on live streams and whatever else. So, you know, it's not necessarily end of the world stuff, but as something that was like basically the only bullet point they had about it, it was like, okay, this sounds grimy. But yeah, anyway, I'm curious to see how they end up trying to promote that thing. Oh man, okay. This just in, because I had my email open. I Am Your Beast has been delayed to September 10th. Good to know. I have been playing that game, but I now I cannot tell you about it until September 10th. Let's see here. Anyway, why don't we get into the news? Crafton. You know, the PUBG people. Crafton has stepped in and they have purchased Tango Gameworks, the studio behind Hi-Fi Rush. This was announced over the weekend. It's a very, like, this seems like a late, for considering when the studio got shut down, which was like May or something, right? Kind of a weird tag on it for something that took a long time. But anyway, they have issued a press release out of El Segundo, which I'm sure they have an office in El Segundo. But Crafton Crafton Inc. today welcomed the talented people of Tango Gameworks to their team, marking an exciting moment in the company's global expansion and its first significant investment in the Japanese video game market. The strategic move will include the rights to Tango Works' acclaimed IP, Hi-Fi Rush. And so it looks like they bought Hi-Fi Rush and the studio. I like the obviously with the downtime between the shutting of the studio and whatever else. I know there's some labor law business that kind of happened all in the middle of that stuff. I'm curious to, it's like how much of that team is it? It sounds like they did not necessarily get scattered to the wind. And so in a lot of ways, this seems like that they are poised to make a sequel to Hi-Fi Rush, because you wouldn't buy that IP unless you were going to make another one. And I guess at some point the price was right. Maybe was it $0? I don't like how much, like, to buy the IP would not be $0. I'm sure Microsoft would get something for that. But like Microsoft had announced like, hey, we're shutting this down. So I imagine that Crafton probably didn't have to like pay much. They probably just had to take over operations and turn the lights back on, right? I mean, of course, Crafton, I don't know what a Hi-Fi Rush 2 under the Crafton banner looks like these days. The types of games that they seem to be largely interested in making, but whatever. They're in expansion mode anyway, so, and it's not like Callisto Protocol did them any favors, so maybe this is a good thing they can do to kind of have some goodwill on just a regular ass video game. Yeah, I don't know. Crafton is not necessarily just involved in a bunch of free-to-play and mobile stuff, I guess, as much as PUBG. You know, I think the big discussion points around PUBG these days are kind of about the mobile game more than the PC game. Though, I guess as part of this was part of their financial disclosures, and they did kind of say in the middle of all this that, like, PUBG players are up year over year and the game is, you know, growing and whatever else, which is, I don't know, that's neat. I liked PUBG. PUBG was a good game. I feel like it got surpassed in so many different ways, not just by Fortnite, but just, you know, the direction that PUBG went in, and the direction that a lot of other games took it in terms of just like, hey, we can make this friendlier, we can make this easier, we can clean up a lot of the inventory work and whatever else we could do. You know, like a lot of games ate their lunch, not just Fortnite. A lot of chicken dinners getting taken out of the mouths of Player Unknown. I guess well, not Player Unknown anymore, but yes. This doesn't look like it. So it says, Krafton intends to collaborate with Xbox and ZeniMax to ensure a smooth transition and maintain continuity, allowing the talented team to continue developing the Hi-Fi Rush IP and explore future projects. Krafton intends to support the Tango Gameworks team to continue its commitment to innovation and delivering fresh and exciting experiences for fans. There will be no impact on the existing game catalog of The Evil Within, Evil Within 2, Ghostwire Tokyo, and the original Hi-Fi Rush game. So this seems like... What this sounds like is that they got the IP. They did not necessarily take over the existing ownership of Hi-Fi Rush 1. And it doesn't seem like that they will end up with the rights to the other Tango games. But with Mikami taken off anyway, like Tango Gameworks seems like it is maybe poised to be a different kind of studio going forward. And so I would say that this was already going to be the end of the Evil Within franchise and the Ghostwire Tokyo, which no one needs a second Ghostwire Tokyo. Some people would benefit from a third Evil Within. I know there are some sickos out there that love those things, but hard to envision anyone coming away from Ghostwire Tokyo being like, yeah, we need more of that. So ironically, a second Ghostwire Tokyo game that fixed a lot of the dumb shit in the first game would maybe be a much more acceptable video game. Anyway, this just seems like by them saying there's no impact on the existing games, this just seems like Microsoft maintains control of that first game, which means they're stuck with the music rights, which means, 15 years down the line, that game probably gets delisted somewhere along the way when some rights thing expires. So consider that, I suppose, but nothing changes right now. And they will go on to make a Hi-Fi Rush 2, presumably, or some kind of additional Hi-Fi Rush thing. And that's good news. And the studio, the people that are there are still there, keep their job, and that's good news. It's nice, that someone was in a position to pick this stuff up. We'll see how it does for them. I don't think Krafton is necessarily, well, whatever. Krafton just feels like they made a bunch of stuff. I mean, they decided to name themselves Krafton and do whatever they were doing in addition to PUBG, but Callisto Protocol obviously didn't exactly go great. And the leadership of that studio kind of bounced. Glenn Schofield, last I saw, had a art showing up in the Bay Area, which sounded interesting. And I don't know what else he's doing, if anything, in video games, but and then whatever. There's an immersive sim somewhere in the middle of all that, isn't there? Isn't there some Krafton studio doing some kind of sim? Anyway, they've got a few things going on. But PUBG doesn't seem like it's burning up the world. I mean, at one point that mobile game was doing amazing numbers in territories other than this one, and I don't know if that's still the case or not. Speaking of battle royale games, this is not so much a news story as it is a thing I heard this morning talking to a friend. She's got kids who are in kind of late elementary school into junior high. And this morning she said, oh yeah, no, it seems like everyone's done with Fortnite. That was the word. The word is that the kids are moving on from Fortnite. The kids are done with Fortnite. She's like, oh yeah, not so much over the last couple weeks here. It just seems like they're really done with Fortnite. And it's because they're into something else. And I was trying to figure out what that was. She couldn't remember the name of it. And I'm like, man, I should really know this. It was not Roblox, which we'll talk a little bit about Roblox a little later. But I went and I had the PlayStation was on in here. So I just went to the store real quick and started looking at it. And I was looking at the store. And then I said, is it Valorant? And she's like, maybe, I don't. And she was texting someone trying to figure out who it is. And I did not get the I did not get the exact details on the game the kids are into now, but so far the word was maybe it's Valorant, because that just came out on consoles, right? They just finished their run. They were like in like an open beta for like a week, and then they were just like, fuck it, man, Valorant's out. And so I wonder if that's going to really take off on console, or pull people in a weird way. But there was something like a chill went down my spine, and I was like, man, if I'm just like hearing this about like from a parent who's just like, oh yeah, none of the kids in this area, like all of them have dropped Fortnite. I'm like, huh. You start to wonder, like, is that a local thing, or are the kids getting off of all this stuff? You know, especially as they age out of stuff, like they don't necessarily want to play Roblox anymore. And they, you know, many of them moved from Roblox to Fortnite, and now if they're moving off of Fortnite, what will it end up being? I hope, I don't know. I guess I say I hope it's not Valorant. I don't know. Valorant is like, it would be a really weird game for like the kids to get into, but it is free. I was very much looking at like, okay, there's got to be some kind of fucking free game. I was playing Roblox the other day. I was looking at the Tekken-like fighting game that someone made in there. I believe it's called Crash Out. It's neat. You look at it and go like, yeah, this is like a little bootleg little Tekken, isn't it? And then you go look at some of the other stuff like Adopt Me or whatever, and you just go like, this is gross. This is gross. Let's skip ahead. This was much later down in the news than it was, but since we're talking about it, Roblox has been banned in Turkey. This is according to Eurogamer, and they have a response from Roblox. Turkey banned it, quote, to ensure the protection of our children. The Minister of Justice, Yilmaz Tunç, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, had a big long Twitter statement about it being banned. Didn't get specific, but just said, due to content that it could lead to the exploitation of children, the country is obliged to take the necessary measures to ensure the protection of our children. This is kind of on the heels of, or this is right around the same time as like there was a big Bloomberg article. Like the Roblox stuff feels like it is about to fucking pop. There was a Bloomberg article kind of talking about moderation and the lack thereof, and what children are able to find on Roblox, and how all that's going, and you know, like actual pedophilia in some cases, and like some pretty creepy shit. And partially, I guess you could say there, hey, there's a lot of creepy shit all over all parts of the internet. So when something gets sufficiently large and is a gathering place for children, you can bet that there's going to be some number of sick fucks trying to get at that. And so it's not necessarily surprising that Roblox would attract those types of creeps, but that perhaps the Roblox moderation efforts are not what they need to be in order to help prevent this sort of stuff, and that it's, you know, that some people are arguing that it is breeding more and more of it all the time by being a pretty low touch place to for those type of sick fucks to operate. And so, yeah, I don't know, between the like it was Eurogamer had it was back around GDC, right? Eurogamer interviewed someone from Roblox about the idea of children being exploited from a revenue perspective, that the teens were being monetized too hard, and you know, and being exploited in that specific way. And they had like a really, I don't remember the exact language at the time, but like everything that Roblox had to say about that didn't necessarily, it was not like a good quality statement that you're like, yeah. But this Bloomberg stuff was like last week. And now Turkey, you know, Turkey's going to ban stuff from its country for a lot of fucking reasons, some of which you might roll your eyes at or go, oh, that's not good. They didn't get into the specific reasons of it, but it feels like there is a groundswell of stuff continuing to surround Roblox, and that's not new, right? I mean, people have been kind of saying that about Roblox for a good long time, but I think back around GDC when this stuff happened, I think I said like, hey, it seems like this is kind of only a matter of time before this goes real bad for Roblox, or that people start waking up to what Roblox really is as a platform, and just how potentially unsafe it can be for kids. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if this picks up any steam, if this becomes a thing, if this becomes a larger situation that Roblox has to deal with, or if they start getting banned in more countries, or if they're, it just seems clear that they are not able to moderate effectively, or make sure that the players are, the players that are making the content are not being exploited in some cases. It's like Roblox can be an amazing platform, and there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on there. And there has been a lot of things happening there from a business perspective that you go like, this is a really weird new market, new platform that's emerging here, and studios are just making Roblox things and making money off of that in a more organized effort than just like, it's user created content. It's like weirdly organized operations that are making these big things in Roblox and making quite a lot of money doing it. And that's weird unto itself. And that's, all the stuff about Fortnite and the custom islands and whatever else, like that's Fortnite looking at that and going like, we should get some of that. But yeah, curious to see how that story ends up evolving as time goes on. Facebook, Meta, not Meta World Peace. He did not do this. Don't lay this at his feet. Meta, the company, Facebook, you know him, Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg has shut down Ready at Dawn, the studio most recently responsible for some of the best VR games that had come out. The Lone Echo and kind of Echo VR products. That was some of the best, kind of coolest competitive multiplayer I remember seeing on the platform. They did a single player thing. Ready at Dawn is the studio responsible for all of that before they were acquired by Facebook. They were the studio responsible for those portable PSP God of War games, as well as The Order 1886, a game that comes up way more frequently than it should. We were just talking about it last week. It was a weird thing. And so they have been shut down. This is gamesindustry.biz has a story on this. It says reportedly because this is a report from Android Central, who looked at an internal memo that they were closing effective immediately. It doesn't seem like there's necessarily been any like official announcement about this closure and the layoffs. But they did get a response from a spokesperson. So this is legit, and they are on the record about it. A spokesperson told the publication that the closure wasn't to save money, but to ensure that Meta's VR division, Reality Labs, stays on target with its new budget restrictions and can deliver, quote, better long-term impact. The company also reportedly said it isn't planning to further reduce its number of first-party VR titles and will still be going ahead with its virtual reality ambitions. That kind of sounds like trying to save money to me. That kind of sounds like working within a budget. That sounds like saving. That sounds like it wasn't to save money, but it was to save money. Long term. Reality Labs, I mean, like if the company was actually interested in saving money, Reality Labs would be fucking shut down. because it's throwing away billions of fucking dollars, and all the reports about how it is being that arm of the company is being run makes it sound like that they are just fucking throwing money on top of a fucking bonfire in terms of how inefficient it runs. So if maybe this is them tightening the belt and maybe actually trying to rein in how that place is run, maybe that'll be a different story. But like, I don't know. Every move that Facebook is making in the VR space right now just seems like it is pushing in a direction that no actual human wants. And that is, they are pushing in the direction of the Horizons product, which is their like shared space big. It's like their sanitized bullshit fucking VR chat. It's like VR chat, but you don't want to be there because it's not fucking fucked up and awesome the way VR chat can be. Like, I don't want to go talk to fucking people in VR. Let's go have a VR conversation, and we're gonna have our meetings in VR. It's like all this stuff that you're just like, this is terrible. And you can have different spaces, so play, yes, much like a Roblox or some of these other platform-based things, people can make different spaces inside of Horizons and make their little worlds and whatever else. But the things they're pushing for in that direction just seem very much like a thing that no one wants to actually do. Whereas I think VR chat has, and there's a non-VR version. You can get into VR chat without a VR headset. They have a VR-less version of VR chat. I really like VR chat. I don't use it. I'm not there on a regular basis messing with VR chat, but I love the idea of it because it does have that kind of lawless vibe of like, we're importing models and doing a bunch of weird shit. I think also it can be an interesting kind of space for people. Some people are not necessarily comfortable showing themselves on camera for, a variety of reasons, whether it's a body dysphoria situation or, whatever else. There are a lot of reasons why people don't want to do that. And VR chat, I think, has actually helped a lot of people that might not want to do that be able to still kind of interact in a quote unquote body that feels a little bit closer to how they envision themselves. And I think that's a good thing ultimately. And it's really it's well made for what it is. It's a mess. It's like VR chat is, again, it is the Wild West. Last time I tried it, it was, and maybe they've come a long way on the interface, but just in terms of just like getting in there and making it work and doing your thing, it was a lot. It was a lot. But that thing has been pretty popular, and so hopefully it's kind of continued to move in a direction to make it kind of easier to use and whatever else. But I don't know. I like VR chat because it's fucking crazy, and I don't want to play. So I don't want to play like a fucking Dead Mall version of it that like Facebook made. Like Facebook's like, hey, do you want to come to this park and we can have a business meeting? No, I fucking don't, Mark. No human does. No actual human wants to meet this way. Zoom is fine. We don't even really like that, but that's fine. I don't need to come meet you in a virtual space. There's nothing gained. There's nothing gained to have those types of things happen in like a business context. And so like, I don't know, like I look at Reality Labs, I look at what Facebook is doing in VR and look at them shutting down a studio that has produced like the bright spots, and maybe there was a change at that studio that they were not viable anymore, and this is why it got shut down. We don't really know behind the scenes what happened. There could be some kind of larger situation there, but in without that information, all I can really say is that Lone Echo is still one of the coolest things I have ever done in VR. You could make a case that it is like one of the best, like kind of blueprint fucking lingua franca ass experiences that you can have in VR. One of those kind of evergreen things, but they shut down the multiplayer thing at some point. And you're like, all right, well, what the fuck, and so it's a damn shame because that studio was responsible for some of the coolest VR stuff that ever existed even though some of it had already been shut down years before. So I don't really know, you know, it's you want to look at this and try to like build a narrative out of it, but like I don't think the narrative changes. I think that VR is a really fucking bad space. I don't think it's in a good place right now. I don't think it's been in a good place for a long time. And I think that Facebook is just burning through money, wasting time trying to figure out some kind of fucking metaverse ass fucking reason for people to get together in VR that like, I think when people vote with their dollars on and their hours and time, they don't want to do it. Like these are pandemic dreams that are long since shut down. Like, yes, COVID is still with us, but like, you know, the world fucking went on, man. It's, you don't need to fucking make that. So I don't know. Like, yeah, you look at that, you look at the Apple Vision Pro and some of the fucking nonsense that they tried to spin with that. Like you can, and you know, in they're testing their 2.0 OS and whatever else, and they're like, our avatars are getting better and they're not going to look as fucking dead in the face. We're putting out an update to make the fucking, when you do FaceTime while wearing our fucking headset, it's not going to look as fucking like a murder man quite so much. They look a little more lively, but not fully lively because, you know, we have to, because you're wearing the headset. It's not a video of you. You could just send a video of you. You could just use a phone or a fucking webcam. Those things have existed for years. But what if instead we made this experience way fucking worse so that you can fucking strap it to your face for some fucking reason? Who the fuck wants to do that? What the fuck is wrong with you? How many fucking billions of dollars did you flush down the goddamn toilet to go like, yeah, we made FaceTime worse. Give us fucking $4,000. What? Bite my fucking ass, you stupid motherfuckers. The whole thing, this was going to be the dream, man. They were going to strap shit to our face and we could live in the internet. But then they fucking made the internet fucking trash first. They're like, oh, what if we made the internet the mall you didn't want to go to? And then we made it so our VR headset could only connect to those parts of the internet. What if we made it so you can only connect to the fucking cleaned up fucking shopping brand friendly? That's why VR chat is a fucking beacon, man. VR chat is the fucking max headroom of fucking VR. It's all that's fucking left in the wastelands. It's a sad state of affairs, man. It shouldn't have gone this way. But I think anytime anyone really sits down and thinks about, like they have these dreams of making virtual reality or even the AR stuff, like trying to make this a big mainstream thing. Everyone's going to be doing this. Not everyone can do it. Some people will get sick. You're going to disqualify a lot of people right out of the gate. There's accessibility things. There's a ton of reasons before you even get started until like, is it actually better? Is it actually useful? Is it actually this? There are a ton of reasons to why it can't work for like significant percentages of the population, like already. And like it feels like that they just made this like chase because everything has to be as big as it possibly can be, right? Minute one. If we're not off to the races trying to get to we're looking at getting our first billion users, then it's not worth doing at all, right? Instead of like saying, hey, VR is going to be this weird little thing and we think it'll break out of that someday, but like right now it's really weird technology that's like kind of hard to walk a normal person through. So we're just going to let it be this weird fucking industry, and it's gonna, maybe it'll grow, it'll find its right size, and we'll find the right levels of investment for it. Instead, Facebook bought fucking Oculus and said, no, we're gonna pump this thing as fucking hard as we can. We're gonna put it in front of as many people as we can. This is gonna be the biggest thing in the world. Like, no. The technology is not good enough to fucking deserve any of that. Like, even as the technology improves percentage pieces at a time here, it's like, well, these screens do look better. The experiences are not. Not at a pace that are going to appeal to, Duna Name says, I played a VR mod for Tarkov this week. It was bonkers. Yeah, like a VR mod for Tarkov sounds like the sort of thing that you put the average person in, they're going to fucking throw up in 90 seconds. I love that that stuff exists. I love that people are doing bananas ass shit with all of this, but that's not where it is. Instead, it's like, oh, well, we rebranded our store app to be more about what. I'm going to open the fucking app. What does this fucking app look like right now? Horizons. Meta Horizon. When I open it, what does it say here? Oh, is it back to defaulting to the store? No. No, it is not. Top Meta Horizon events. These are live events that you can go be a part of. Oh, no, this is just like do a thing. Everyone's going to do a thing in VR at the same time. If you want to play Synth Riders, you could do it Sunday at 1 p.m. 170 people are interested. What? You could go look at Red Rock's concert in VR. Samurai Tycoon Classic Set 3. 16,000 people have hit a heart button next to this one. So you know it's good. Yeah, it's just a bunch of weird, like they're kind of like weird, hey, we're going to try to make VR spaces inside of Horizons and not have you go buy applications and go buy this. Like I don't know, man. I don't think that there's legs on that. I just don't think that people want to do that. And they keep trying to push that sort of shit in a way that you're just like, I don't think you're going to get that over the hump in a way that's going to attract a number of users that's going to make a company like Facebook happy. Facebook's not going to be happy if like, oh, well, 5 million people are using our stuff. Like, no, they want billions. They want everyone to be using this shit. It's Facebook. They're increasingly desperate. They're Facebook. They've got to figure something out ASAP. It's Facebook. And it probably ain't going to be VR. The Borderlands film came out. Did you see it? Odds are you didn't. Variety is reporting that the Borderlands film is a flop, making $8.8 million in its opening weekend. Overseas, it made 7.7. Yeah, so this is, this doesn't sound like this went well. 8.8 million from 3,125 theaters. It landed in fourth place behind Twisters, which made 15.4 million. Is Helen Hunt in Twisters? Is it? No, she's not. Okay, I'm not going to go see Twisters. I liked Twister. It's fine. I stole a print of Twister from the Film Depot years ago. Anyway, so the overseas box office was 7.7 million, bringing its global total to what Variety calls an embarrassing 16.5 million. Although nearly 60% of the production, I'm just reading from the Variety article here, although nearly 60% of the production costs for Borderlands were covered by international pre-sales. According to studio sources, it's still a disastrous result for the film and one that was far behind already low pre-release expectations. The production budget was 115 million and marketing and distribution costs were 30 million. They've got a quote here from like I guess like a, it's like the Michael Pachter of movies or whatever, but it's like an analyst that studies the film business. It's a total miss. If an action comedy is going to work, it has to be funny, and almost no one thinks this picture is. Which is a grim thing to say, but I'm not surprised. It is apparently one of the worst reviewed movies of the year with a D+ cinema score. This all sounds, I don't know, like everything I read about the Borderlands movie makes it feel like it is an absolutely authentic take on the games. Because the games aren't funny either. So like, of course a Borderlands movie is gonna fucking suck shit. Like, did you play Borderlands 3? Like, if they do anything, like, the further away they get from the games, the better, theoretically. Like, if you wanted to make an authentic fucking movie version of Borderlands 3, you would get people, or Borderlands 2, maybe more so than 3. You would load people into a theater and then just project fucking, like, 5-year-old memes onto the screen. Like, you'd get a bunch of people in there with fucking, like, their custom fucking popcorn bags or fucking boxes or whatever, and then you would just have the girl up on the screen with her face, and it would say Ermagerd, and the people would be like, ha, 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 woo, woo, yeah, I love this. Like, what the fuck would a Borderlands movie even be? Jesus Christ. So this is like a funny, I don't know, like it's not surprising to me that the Borderlands movie did not come out well, you know, like everything I heard about it, like I know they had to go back for significant reshoots. Originally, you know, Kotaku had a report saying, which I heard something similar, that originally that movie was meant to be rated R, and it was going to have, it's an M-rated fucking game, by the way. And the movie is PG-13. It's just 90 minutes of damn Daniel jokes, and you get in the theater and you just like see the fucking white vans, and then it pulls the image back and you see, and he's standing there, and you're like, man, this is funny as shit. Woo! And none of them are current. It's like they're fucking piling people into a theater and then saying like, all your base are belong to us, and like people are expected to fucking clap like fucking circus seals. That would be a Borderlands movie. But yes, they cut it down to PG-13 and ended up reshooting some of the more violent scenes, as I understand it. And the Kotaku story goes into some depth on that and says like, yeah, there were like people with their legs getting sawed off. I mean, like it's an Eli Roth movie, so of course it's going to be fucking gross, weird, dumb in the way that everything he seems to make. And then they fucking went and trimmed all of that out of it too. So what do you got left at that point? If you're bailing out, maybe they end up, I wonder if they do like, this is the fucking director's cut, the Vault Hunter's cut. It's rated R. This one's rated. This one's unrated. That used to be the big trick, right? You'd sell your unrated version of like, oh, it's American Pie, and it's got 4 more minutes of bawdy jokes that were too hot for the theater. This time it's 2 guys fucking a pie. I don't know. But like, yeah, what's the... I assume at some point we do get to see some kind of larger cut of that movie. Or maybe they just go like, hey, you know what? We're just cutting our losses on this one. Yeah, if you want to fucking get the movie, you can, but we're not going to send anybody back into an editing suite to fucking put together the real cut of the movie. Just fuck off. Fuck off. Just do it. Whatever. And maybe it will just go away. I don't know. Yes, a special edition where the movie comes on a USB stick. That would be good. That's very funny. That is actually very funny. Good work. Take-Two had their earnings call in the middle of all of this, of the movie coming out or whatever. And Rebecca Valentine at IGN has like a funny little... Oh, it's not meant as a funny story, but like the CEO of Take-Two, Strauss Zelnick, was asked about the movie's reviews. And the quote is, "Give the film a chance." And let's give the film a chance. A lot of people worked really hard on it. The underlying intellectual property is phenomenal. The cast is amazing. I think the look and feel is really terrific. So let's see what audiences have to say. But to answer your question, no, the performance of the film wouldn't have a financial impact on us or on the franchise one way or another. So yeah, I mean, they're not, you know, like, remember, like, they just purchased Gearbox like recently. So there's a lot of, you know, like obviously there's a lot of the Embracer group wrapped up in the early parts of this production. But I imagine When they bought Gearbox, they probably bought the entirety of Gearbox, including like the film arm. I don't know how much of that is a real thing and how much of that is just Randy Pitchford saying like, I'm the film arm. I'm going to be on set every day for this movie, and then get on Twitter and talk about and try to act like I was not integral in the creation of this film, while I also simultaneously defend it in the most weird. In another Randy Pitchford Twitter classic, he is wildin' about the reviews of Borderlands. Let's give the film a chance is just a really funny concept, because like, what do you mean? Like you can either see it or not. There's no like, I'm going to give the film a chance, but in context, he is, if you look at the full answer, he is kind of talking about like, let's see what the audiences have to say. And I think now that we're past the opening weekend, traditionally, when we look at how films tend to do, the audience has spoken from the sounds of things. Maybe they'll re-release it back into theaters Morbius style. Like maybe like can we like drum up some kind of fucking guerrilla meme campaign about the Borderlands movie to convince them that like, no, we should put it back out. And somehow get them to waste even more money on it 6 months from now. I had no real opinion. Like going into it, I was just like, you know what? I kind of want to see like Janina's in the Borderlands movie. I want to see that. I want to see what she's doing in the Borderlands movie. I want to see what a Borderlands movie looks like. And then I heard that Jack Black was doing the voice of fucking Claptrap. And I was like, yeah, okay, I guess you could do that. I mean, why wouldn't you just get the voice of Claptrap, which I guess the original voice of Claptrap is probably not available to work with Randy Pitchford in any way. But they do have a, current voice of Claptrap that it seems like they could, I don't know. Like if you wanted to be authentic to the games in some way, I would just, I might have stuck with that, but I don't know, man. Jack Black gives that movie star power, so why not? I don't know. The idea, maybe they'll get Jack Black to now voice Claptrap in the games going forward. And so now, of course, this is kind of a twofold situation where like, this was very much alluded to when 2K purchased Gearbox from the Embracer Group. But also as part of the like, let's talk about the Borderlands movie on Twitter and then block a bunch of people. Randy Pitchford has been out there very directly hinting about Borderlands 4. I'm curious to see that with, like I think I said this at the time, but like Take-Two's ownership of Gearbox, I think has a chance to put that studio on a tighter schedule and a smarter schedule. And I wonder, not that that's necessarily something that has to happen one way or the other, but like, I'm curious to see what a Borderlands 4 from a studio that is now fully owned by Take-Two, as opposed to was just partners with them. If that ends up being any different, if it ends up getting rushed to market in some ways, because like, remember Borderlands 3 was this insane, like, and it's like Randy Pitchford is like, it feels like he's trying to do the fucking same thing out here, but in maybe a more direct way, where he's being a little bit coy about it when he says like, oh, I think we're working on something you like. Like, yeah, I mean, you're making the next Borderlands. I get it. Like, I'm not an idiot. I know how business works. You're making Borderlands 3. They spent so much time not saying Borderlands 3 while very clearly working on Borderlands 3, and then finally got to some fucking PAX panel, so that Pitchford could, put on half a magic show before in front of a live audience, before saying, hey, yeah, we're making the next Borderlands. It's just such a weird, it's just like, it was just weird. It was just like, I just say it, just fuck, who cares? Like this open secret, like, well, whoa, I didn't say we're like, just, whatever. You're making Borderlands 3. It's fine. Like, just put it out, like, or, just say that and then say, hey, it's a ways off. We're not going to have anything to say about it in a good long time, but hey, it's Borderlands 3. So now to be back in a situation where they're both like, even Take-Two, I think is being a little bit coy about it, but he's out there very directly teasing a Borderlands 4. You're just like, yeah, no shit. Especially now that Take-Two bought the studio, they're going to be like, hey, yeah, that thing you made that has made like quite a lot of money over the years. Yeah, that's why yes, you're going to make another one of those. Like, yeah, no shit. And they should. I don't know. Like, Borderlands is another one of these franchises that I feel fucking trapped by, where like there's been such a kernel. Like, there's something at the core of Borderlands that has been so cool and good, and it is the random gun generation, and like a good action RPG is still a good action RPG. And I liked Borderlands. Like, Borderlands 1 felt like it was just like 2 clicks off the fucking mark, man. It just felt like, okay, like you're onto something here. You've made something really cool. Like, you've set it in an interesting universe. With these interesting characters and yes, let's go. And then Borderlands 2 comes out, and it's like, again, they fucking termed the fucking stolen meme dial all the way to the end, and you're just like, what did you do? And the expansions they made on the characters, customization and whatever else, you're just like, no, this is not. When we said Borderlands 1 needed some work in this direction, no. And it just feels like it's getting further and further away from the light as time has gone on. I don't know, but like, the Tiny Tina game sounds like it did well, and they'll make another one of those, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a crazy. It's crazy that Borderlands is as big as it is. It's one of those things that you're almost like a little bit deflated by, because you're just like, man, yeah. There's a lot of people out there. I guess I'll say, I don't know very many people, and I know they're out there. They have to be, right? Statistically. But I don't know of a lot of people who like Borderlands because of the voice work and story and jokes and writing and all of that. The people that play those games are like, this is like a pretty decent action RPG shooter. Like, if I interviewed Randy Pitchford before Borderlands 1 came out, and he said Diablo. And I said, you mean Diablo? And I did not say that, but he's from Texas. That's just, I don't know. And yeah, hey, Hellgate London was a cool idea. Hey, first-person shooter action RPG, let's do it. You've got a bunch of randomness around guns. You can make a zillion guns. That's fascinating. Like, there's stuff about Borderlands that is like undeniably interesting. But unfortunately, they've just gone in all of the wrong directions for all that sort of stuff. And you're just like, like, does anyone actually like that? Again, statistically, there must be some people out there that think that shit is really funny, but like, it's the internet. You can see people with fucking terrible senses of humor all day long. It's twitter.com. There were people that are fucking laugh at any fucking generic ass fucking, it's miserable. You just look at it and go like, oh God, Jesus Christ. People with very low bars, I guess, for when it comes to being entertained. But again, like, all those people just always just seem so theoretical to me, because I don't run into people on a regular basis that are just like, I just love the writing in that. But you just look at them and go like, they might as well be on like propeller beanies and stuff. And like, I love them. I love these jokes. Put me on the meme team. Have you heard about the cake? It's a lie, buddy. Like all of that, just all that miserable shit. And then, yeah, people like, this, as someone in chat points out, people did like the writing on that Telltale game. That's kind of like almost like the sad thing in a weird way. It's like, you see a world where that game could be written better. And I'm not the one to do it, like, I'm not here going like, I'm funny, like, I'm not, this isn't, but like the universe itself, what they've done with it, there's meat on that bone that I think if you just wrote something more entertaining and good, You could do it. You could absolutely do it. But I don't know. Borderlands 3 really sucked the life out of me when it came to like, is there ever a time when the Borderlands franchise could maybe pull the nose up and actually do something good and funny in that department? Like Borderlands 3 is such a fucking vacuum. It is such a miserable fucking experience. Like by the time you get to fucking like Penn and Teller showing up in the game, or I guess Penn, yeah, it's funny that like one of the most frequent mods I've seen for Borderlands games have been, hey, did you know if you delete these files out of the directory, it'll totally remove all the dialogue from the game and you won't have to deal with any of that bullshit anymore? I'm like, huh. That's probably a bad thing. I don't know. Anyway, give the film a chance, says Strauss Zelnick. Like, I don't want to clown on it. I'm like, I'm not here to fucking like tap dance on the fucking grave of the movie or whatever. Like at some point I will probably fucking see the Borderlands movie. When the Borderlands movie is released in a state where I can watch it in the home at 9 days from now at this rate, I will probably fucking watch the fucking Borderlands movie. I have to know. I want to know. Would I rather watch Borderlands or Deadpool 3? Is the question in chat. It's just the same thing, man. It's just the same goddamn thing. I mean, there's a qualitative difference there, I suppose, in a lot of ways, and a budgetary one, but like, I don't know, the way that the Deadpool character is written and the way, but like, I don't know. I guess the difference is like Deadpool kind of references its own shit, I suppose. Whereas, so much of Borderlands 2 was a big reference to garbage. Like, I don't especially like Deadpool, but I don't have a problem with it, I guess is what I would say. Like when, and I have not seen the recent movie. I'm sure there's a world in which that movie is probably pretty good. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is good, like generally speaking, something I enjoy, I guess I would say. I kind of want to go back and watch, what is it? Again, TikTok fucking film clips leading me to go, man, I should fucking watch that movie. Logan was a good movie. Yes, Logan was a solid movie. But the one where like they send Hugh Jackman like back in time to like fucking long hair Professor Xavier and try to convince him, that's the scene that keeps popping up on TikTok. Days of Future Past. Like, it looks interesting. Like, even though it sounds like it's not, like, it seems like people don't necessarily like it. Or I guess like it's a mixed reaction to that movie. Like, I don't know. Like, I like the Hugh Jackman as Wolverine stuff. Like those X-Men movies, even in a lot of ways, I thought those movies were good. Like those first, like, was it like they did 3 of them before they started doing spin-offs and whatever else, right? But like that era of X-Men film that fucked up all of Marvel's rights management and whatever else for however many years, those were entertaining films. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. The idea of like a Deadpool movie where he's interacting with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine sounds like it could. It just seems like there's something there that if they harvest it the right way, it could be really fucking good. But whatever. I don't go to the movies. Like, all these kids are too young. They announced Frozen 3, speaking of my kids and the movies, but they announced it for like 2027. And it's like, is my daughter going to like Frozen by then? Or will my other daughter be just the right age for Frozen at that point? So like, it's going to come out in 2027 and Frozen 3 is going to be 2 movies. Like, okay. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's at some point, yeah, I will probably watch that Deadpool movie at some point as well. That seems like something that is probably fun. if nothing else. Ryan Reynolds, he's like a likable guy. I don't know. Like, I just feel like people sometimes want to fucking hate that dude, and I get it. But he seems like he is genuine. Like, he seems like he likes his shit. He seems like he's like trying to do his best and just do his thing, man. I don't know. What was that movie where he was the video game man? Free Guy? Probably didn't do him any favors. The PlayStation Store is talking about a PC version of Red Dead Redemption. I don't know why. But the text for Red Dead Redemption on the PlayStation Store has been updated to say it's now on PC. This is according to IGN.com, among others. And they've got some quotes here. Experience the epic Western adventures that defined a generation, now on PC for the first time ever. Also included is Undead Nightmare, the iconic horror story that transforms the world of Red Dead Redemption into an apocalyptic fight for survival against a zombie horde. Okay, so they got more of the text here, featuring the complete single player experiences of both games, which I think by that they mean Undead Nightmare and Red Dead, not Red Dead 1 and 2. Including bonus content from the Game of the Year edition, Red Dead Redemption features all of the 2023 console version upgrades, plus PC-specific enhancements, including support for increased resolutions and frame rates, multiple displays, and other accessories, plus spatial surround sound. So it sounds like, this sounds like some weird mishap where someone pasted the wrong text into the wrong CMS or the wrong backend somewhere, and a bunch of PC-specific text about Red Dead ended up getting published on the PlayStation Store. That's weird. That seems like it shouldn't happen, but there you go. They leaked this themselves there was some data mining going on with their launcher a while ago that had a bunch of text specifically about a PC version of Red Dead, which, again, does not exist and still has not been officially announced. But this is detailed enough that you go like, okay, they're going to eventually make this happen at some point, right? Is there an anniversary coming up? When did that game come out? It was a late summer kind of game, right? Red Dead Redemption 1, same week as Alan Wake, if I remember correctly. So it came out in 2010. Oh, it was May 2010. So they've already kind of passed this year's anniversary if they wanted to release it there. I guess the Switch and PS4 versions of it came out in 2023 in August. So that's this month. If they were on some kind of weird exclusivity thing where it was going to be exclusive to PS4 and are not on PC for a year's time or something, that time is right around the corner, I guess. But that would be a weird deal. I can't imagine. It's hard to imagine that is what they're waiting for there. But hey, it's a weird business. Last story here about this Deadlock game. Everyone's been reporting on it today, like all of a sudden. I mean, it's like, I don't know. Like this is apparently Valve's new game. An action MOBA kind of thing, lanes, characters, that sort of stuff. IGN is reporting that thousands of people are playing it and that it has an entry on SteamDB. I don't know how that got there. I feel like usually if Valve wants to hide games from their data, from whatever API, from whatever, that they're usually pretty good at not exposing that information. But it is currently showing up on SteamDB with 22,061 players right now. That is a new peak for it, apparently. The player count on this seems to wave up and down in a way that almost suggests that the servers go up and down on a regular basis, but who could say? The Verge, I believe, also just straight up wrote about it. And then people got weirdly up in arms about that because they weren't supposed to be writing about it. Yeah, okay. Yes, Sean Hollister wrote a thing on Verge and shows a screenshot of a screen here that says, early development build. Deadlock is still early in development with a lot of temporary art and experimental gameplay. Do not share anything about the game with anyone. And then the caption here is, this message does pop up when I launch Deadlock, but I didn't click OK. Instead, I hit the escape key and watched it disappear. It's an interesting workaround, I guess, in your head there. But but the long story, the story here is that, like, they are inviting people to play this game, or friends are inviting other people. The people who are in this beta are able to invite other people into the beta, from the sounds of things. They're not necessarily making people sign anything. It's just got a thing here. Like, it feels like a friends and family beta, I guess, is what this sounds like to me. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird, I don't know, like, I don't really know much about this, but it sounds like they're not having people sign anything at all about the game, which, you know, is creating this kind of legal loophole thing where people are like, well, I didn't sign it yet, that is how it works. Like, if you want your thing to really be secret, you need to lock it down legally. And but this, I don't know, if 20,000 people are playing it, which is what Steam DB has to say about it, that's a lot of people to keep lids on something. And so it's not surprising that there's been leaks on this, and you've seen videos showing up on TikTok or wherever else. I don't know, like, it's been a very leaky kind of thing. And, like, in the way that they went about this, it's like, did they start it as a friends and family sort of thing, and then it just kind of grew out of control as they allowed more people to be invited to it? Or is this how they wanted it to happen? Did they, at some point, where they were just like, fuck it, like, we don't really care, like, we're gonna invite people to play this thing, and, like, we're gonna ask people not to leak it, but eventually that's gonna happen, and like, hey, whatever. Valve is just such a weird organization sometimes that you just, like, I don't know, you just look at it and go, like, I don't really know. I don't really know why they would go about it this way. But it's got people talking about it. I mean, whatever. Valve doesn't need, I guess, here's the thing. One, it's Valve. You know, they can release whatever, whenever, and people will at least be interested in what the hell is going on. And two, it's Valve. They're a weirdly black box organization sometime. And so there's an increased interest in anything that they're working on because of the way they tend to operate. And so because they have been, and not to say that, obviously there's been weird leaks in, you know, source engine updates for Left 4 Dead, and, you know, there's like a whole people that have devoted hundreds of thousands of hours of their lives to trying to figure out what the fuck Valve is doing next, and all the Half-Life 3 leak people for all years, and everything that happened with that. You know, Valve has earned that, I think, in a lot of ways, because for two reasons. One, because they've made games that people care about. They've made some of the best games, you know, like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm a massive Half-Life fan, but, like, I can recognize, like, whatever. They have made some of the greatest video games of all time. I don't think that's like a controversial statement, right? I mean, they've made a number of games across multiple genres that you look at and go, like, yes, Half-Life 2, you know, whatever, Portal, you know, TF2 to some extent, Counter-Strike, of course, like, you know, they bought it, whatever. The process that led to them being the Counter-Strike people is a thing, right? The same as the process that led to them being the Dota people, I suppose. But like they make a number of insanely popular games. And I think that they're a fascinating organization. I still look at like Valve as like, and I've not heard a ton from people who've worked there, but like it's such a fascinating place. But I feel like if there's a number of game studios that I would actively go like, yeah, it'd be really interesting to work there. Valve is on that list for me. If only because I don't know. It's like there's a lot of cool people there doing God knows what, apparently making whatever the hell this thing is. And I don't, I can do a pretty good Cutlery Corner impression, so I feel like I would get on well there with some knife talk. My knife talk's not genuine though. I would be picked apart immediately. They would sniff me out in a second. They'd be like, "Oh, you watched the fucking knife show. You have knife show jokes. We've got actual fucking knife jokes." And I'm like, "Oh, Jesus. I'm out of my depth. I'm just going to roll my desk over here. What do you guys want for lunch?" So, yeah, I don't know. But Valve, I don't know. Valve is just a fascinating organization. They always have been. And I think there's some stuff they could do better. There's whatever. There's stuff they could do better with Steam and moderation, whatever. I think it goes without saying. But like, when I look at this wide of a leak, or like this uncoordinated of a leak in terms of like, we're just letting people play this thing, and we don't have time to fucking deal with getting everyone to sign something. So whatever. I could very easily see Valve just being like, it doesn't matter. Like let it leak as it leaks, and we'll ban people if they're weird about it. But like if it gets people talking, who cares? I could very easily see that being like what their approach is on this, or what their approach became. Like maybe it didn't start this way, but as the testing pool grew and grew, maybe they're just like, hey, whatever. It's cool that people are excited about our next thing. And, I don't know. And then we've got people speculating in the chat that like, they're going to announce it this week, which I feel like people were saying that about this game when it first leaked months ago. Like, oh, the announcement is imminent. And this IGN story about it says, could the announcement be imminent? Like, sure. Or they could just not. I don't know. Who knows, man? It's fucking Valve. Even when they've got games, they're weird. So, good on them. Good on Valve for being Valve. This industry needs fucking weird shit sometimes, man. Sometimes you need just people being crazy. Yeah, they could cancel it tomorrow. It could come out tomorrow, or they could just shut it down and be like, all right, we've thanks to everyone who's been testing it, we've decided to shut it down. So I don't know. I like how weird Valve is. They just seem like interesting. If Valve ain't boring, right? When it comes to Valve and what they are or are not working on, like even if you're not necessarily interested in the games themselves, at least they've managed to be a fucking fascinating organization. And I don't know. Sometimes this business needs that, I guess. And that's it for the news. So, yeah, let's get some emails. podcast@guard.bike is the email address. You can send in your emails to me. I will look at them, and then we will discuss them together here on the show. Let's see. Tom writes in and says, the recent WWE Call of Duty stuff is the most I have enjoyed either product for some time. However, I'm startled by how little Cody Rhodes gets to curse in his lines. Rhea Ripley is cursing all the time. She says shit and fuck. Is she allowed because she is Australian? I don't have the Rey Mysterio skin, but would be interested in hearing whether or not he curses. I don't know. At some point when they first released the Rhea Ripley skin, she was not speaking at all. Like the voice lines just weren't playing. And that's since been fixed. And yes, she is like somewhat foul-mouthed in a way that's like amazing for a wrestler who is playing themselves and not like in a movie as some other character, for it to be billed as Rhea Ripley, and then Rhea Ripley is out there cursing all over the place. It's great. Again, as I said, I think this is one of the best fucking weird integrations that they have done for Call of Duty in a long time. I think it's like a fun thing. I think I would say Cody Rhodes probably doesn't get to curse because Cody Rhodes is a politician. Not that all wrestlers are politicians at the end of the day, but like, he's the face of the company in a lot of ways. Cody Rhodes is probably kind of held to a somewhat higher standard as a character, not as a person. He's out there in interviews talking about wanting to fuck on them. Cody Rhodes is he's not a clean man when it comes to his language overall, but yeah, exactly. He's sponsored by a vodka company. Like, forget cursing. He's sponsored by alcohol. That to me is way more extreme than any kind of cursing or language or anything like that. The idea that they took a liquor sponsor in the first place, which I know WWE has done beer stuff over the years, but the idea that they said, hey, Cody Rhodes, face of the company, American Nightmare. Look at this, red, white, and blue, but also a weird skull. I don't know. What does that say? Are cops going to get the American Nightmare thing put on the hood of their car? Are they like updating their Punisher logos to look more like the American Nightmare logo? Maybe. Not really, because Cody Rhodes is not the character for that. He's not out there punishing the sick criminals. Just put a thin blue line in the middle of the skull. And him and Undertaker can hang out. But yes, Cody Rhodes is a very different level of character, or a different type of character than Rhea Ripley is. So Rhea Ripley cursing, that just makes sense. And it works. But I don't know. I don't think it necessarily makes sense for Cody Rhodes to be cursing up a storm as Cody Rhodes. And who knows? I could very easily see a scenario where the Call of Duty writers wrote dialogue that might have even contained curse words that he could have gotten in the studio and be like, oh no, this is, I could see him saying something along the lines of like, oh, well, Cody Rhodes would not say this. This doesn't make sense for what I feel like he's got a really good grasp on his character and is doing, he is doing the damn thing. Nothing but respect for where Cody Rhodes is at. Even if I disagree with his ranking of Legend of Zelda games. Yeah, I don't know. He's doing his thing, and yeah, every time it comes up that maybe he'll want to be an actual politician someday, that I just look at and go like, ugh, I don't. That all sounds kind of silly, man. I don't know. But yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Big fan of Rhea Ripley cursing. Big fan of Rhea Ripley. One of the few bright spots on that programming these days is the stuff that she has been up to for, I mean, she was gone for a while there, but yeah. Nathan in Vancouver writes in and says, my favorite YouTuber is doing a series where he is ranking all of the NES games that came out. That sounds like horseshit to me. I don't know. In some of the games played, there is slowdown if too many elements are on screen at once. I am curious how this slowdown was received by the public at the time when the games were new. Slowdown in games, I think that when we go back to those days, I think it wasn't until maybe like the PlayStation, at some point slowdown changed. The SNES had, you know what? The early SNES games were looked down on for their slowdown, I guess I'll say. Especially in the early days of the SNES when you had like Axlay and some of this other stuff that you're just like, why is this, like, it's just, you know, when it's running slow for kind of no good reason or no visible reason. When it's too many guys on screen or a sick fucking explosion, in a lot of ways that felt dramatic. In a lot of ways, I think players were like, yeah, fucking, they're packing so much stuff into this game, it's almost breaking the console. It's like, you know, like there was something like almost heroic about it in a weird way. And it happened frequently, you know, so it was something that you kind of just got used to and adjusted for because, you know, like you were a dumb kid and you didn't really care or whatever. But I think by the time we got to the SNES, and maybe it was by virtue of like, hey, we're going to an all new, much more powerful console. Look at the Super Nintendo. That could have been part of the sale of like, you know, they're selling it on like, hey, now you're playing with superpower. To get that and be dealing with slowdown in like a really random kind of shitty way in some of those very early games, I think people were a lot less willing to stand for it back then. So at some point the worm turned on it and people were like, fuck this. But I think shooters, you're out there playing your STGs. I think a lot of that stuff, slowdown in those games, if anything, was a fucking respite, especially in some of the more intense games in the genre. It was actually kind of nice to have things slowed out a little bit. But yeah, I remember it being probably around the SNES era. There's an interesting thing out there if you are into patching ROMs. If you're a big ROM patcher, if you love to patch a ROM, people have, or a person specifically is doing the vast majority of this work. They are fixing old SNES games and like porting them from slow ROM to fast ROM, which is it's just as the name dictates, fast ROM is faster. And so in some ways they're basically moving these games to more advanced SNES hardware by using some of the onboard chips that later games had. And basically eliminating slowdown from some of those games. So in like they're patching these games to fix those issues in ways that would theoretically still work on real hardware. And it's a really fascinating thing, like the process of it and reading the details of the person. You know, it's like it is a really interesting. Is really, really interesting. The other thing that's happening in some cases is there's someone else out there who is porting NES games to the SNES. And running them like natively. They're still the NES games. They have some benefits, like getting rid of slowdown in some cases, but also like I believe Mike Tyson's Punch Out, they let you use like the shoulder buttons or something for the punches or whatever else. Like they've reorganized the HUD in Punch Out in really weird ways that like make it like technically a better game. Like Mega Man and I think the first Legend of Zelda, but there's like a handful of games that this person has ported to the Super Nintendo and hasn't touched the graphics really. It's not like they don't look like 16-bit games. Probably the most dramatic one I saw was Punch Out, where the HUD had been reworked to fit because of, I don't know, V-blanks or whatever the fuck's going on. Ask me about V-blanks. It's too early in the morning to talk about V-blanks. And that is really, really interesting work. Just from a, like, here's these crazy projects that you look at and go like, this is awesome that you're doing this. It's really nuts. It's really nuts. But it's so cool that it's happening. Let's see here. Chris in the United Kingdom writes in and says, watching you play Treasure Island Dizzy made a question appear in my mind. Did the phrase graphic adventure ever make its way across the pond? I don't think I've ever heard you use it. In the UK, it was a very common phrase in the 80s and possibly 90s, specifically to differentiate games from text adventures and point-and-click adventures. Graphic adventures were essentially what Dizzy was, some kind of light platform or top-down environment where you controlled a character who explored, and progress was made by taking the right object to the right place or person. They were certainly abundant in the Spectrum and Commodore 64 era. So I have heard the term graphic adventure, but I would take graphic adventure to mean the alternative to, and you're saying here that it was used to differentiate from text adventures. But if you're saying graphic adventure to me, I'm thinking of King's Quest. I am thinking of point and click adventure games. I'm thinking of Leisure Suit Larry. I'm thinking of text adventures that have graphics in some of those cases. I am familiar with the term graphic adventure to mean those types of British ass video games. I have heard, reading this email, I'm like, yes, yeah, now that you mention it, I have heard graphic adventure used for like all that stuff that Rare made on the Spectrum or whatever else, like all those goddamn games, like that fucking Batman game for the Commodore 64 that I should really go back and play one of these days, but it's terrible. So like, yes, but also it made it over here insofar as I am aware of that as a term for that style of game. It was not used here, but also I think a lot of those types of games didn't necessarily make it over here in the first place. That Batman game qualifies. I think that would be a graphic adventure. We would think of it as one of those. Again, very British video games. But yeah, the term wasn't necessarily used. Chris goes on to ask, even if it wasn't used over there, what are some of the best classic games you would retroactively brand with the genre? I don't know that I can really think of anything that was actually good. I think a lot of those games are fucking miserable, dude. It's their that is one of those genres that I look at as like, you kind of had to be there. And if you were there, it probably seemed like such a huge step forward from a lot of the games that came before, because they weren't just simple action platformers and shooters. You had inventories, you had, there were things going on in those games. And I think a lot of them are pretty bad. Like when I think back to the games I've played over the years, I can't think of any that would stand out. I would go like, oh, well, this one's incredible, but this one is shit, like they're all kind of, they feel like a lost art. They feel like a lost, like a lost genre in a lot of ways. And I'm sure outside of the UK, and I'm sure parts of Europe, that's probably just how it went, because those games never really came over here in great quantities to begin with. Whereas I think if you grew up over there playing games, you probably have a much different feeling about a lot of that stuff. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Yeah. That just felt like there were a ton of them. Like some licensed game, like I think the Young Ones game is technically one of those, if I remember correctly. Just a lot of, I don't know, a lot of that stuff, and when you see that stuff now, the thing I'll say is I think a lot of those games aged really poorly, and they aged very quickly. So like, once we kind of got out of that generation and more games started coming out, like it just sort of, like those things just fell apart. The Benny Man in chat asks, does Blizzard's Blackthorn count? I would not put Blackthorn. See, I don't know. No, because in my mind, some of these games are side scrollers, but the vast majority of them are these like isometric games as well. Well, not the vast majority, but like the classic of the genre are these like isometric games, like the Immortal, or like there was another Batman game that was like that. I can't even name a lot of them, but I guess Dizzy is a side scroller. But like, I don't like, it's hard for me to say that stuff like Out of This World or Another World falls into that, because those games are like Prince of Persia likes, if that makes any sense. Ogto says like the Labyrinth video game. No, Labyrinth, the game based on the movie. To me, that game is like a proto Maniac Mansion, but you have direct character control. It's a Labyrinth. Technically, you could probably say yes, but I would not. I would not put Labyrinth in that category. But like Flashback and Out of This World and all of that stuff to me feels more like that they are following on from Prince of Persia, and that's the more direct lineage. Blackthorn is one of those. Blackthorn more directly falls into the kind of that lineage to me than that kind of like British weird adventure game lineage. Now Octo is asking the hard questions. What the hell is Little Big Adventure 1 and 2? Yeah, I don't know, man. Twinsen's a weird dude. I remember playing the Twinsens games. They were called different things in different territory. I want to say here they called them Twinsens Adventure or something like that. But like, yeah, Little Big Adventure is how they're more commonly known. To me, and maybe this is just because I played them around the same time and I need to go back and play Little Big Adventure again. But like, in some ways, those games felt like they were around Alone in the Dark a little bit. Like a weird controlling, sort of isometric-y kind of thing. But like in my head, for whatever reason, The Little Big Adventure and Alone in the Dark are like married. But it's probably just because the character models are pretty similar. It's not necessarily the same type of game per se. But yeah. It's just a weird, fascinating time. Yeah, Crusader. I mean, Crusader's, you know, a weird kind of thing too. You know, Crusader is an isometric game that you play. Crusader is such a fucking good game, dude. Crusader, those two games. If you play the Crusader games in DOSBox Pure, if you go grab the like ExoDOS packages of Crusader and run them in DOSBox Pure in RetroArch, it does like controller mapping in a way that sort of works. I just wish that like that stuff was written down. The thing DOSBox Pure needs with ExoDOS and all that other stuff is it needs something that says, here's how we've mapped the controller. The PlayStation and Crusader came out on PlayStation, and obviously it has controller support there, but it's sort of weird. I don't know. That's such a keyboard game to me. Because that's just how I originally played it. But anyway, Kev writes in from Eccleswell, England, and says, so I don't know about other people, but when Xbox came up with the Series name, it seemed like they were going to do something beyond the initial X and S. But it seems to me now that Series is just the shorthand name for this Xbox generation that goes alongside the PS5, and they may not want to keep using that when Sony eventually drops whatever they will next generation. I assume they won't want the Wii or Wii U market confusion situation. Do you have any thoughts or perhaps recommendations for Microsoft? So I would ditch the Series thing completely. I think that because this generation has not necessarily worked out from a sales perspective, you want to distance yourself from it. I think that if you want your next console to seem like a big deal, you change the name a little more dramatically. And I think that would be my like advice, is to come up with something that sounds fucking flashy. That's not like named like a television. That's the X, that's the Series X or a car or whatever. Like, this is the Series Y. This is the Series X. This is the Series S. I think you have to come up with something that just sounds sleeker and more dramatic and more powerful, like something that sounds big. But I don't know what that is. I don't know. Like I'm not sure what you would, if you think about this next console as going up against a PlayStation 6, which is a weird thing to say out loud, PlayStation 6. I don't know. You want something. You couldn't just say it's the Series XX, it's the Series B, it's the, you need something. Ground Flyer says maybe if they go with Windows 11, it'll be the Xbox 11. So I think that would be a terrible idea, because Windows 11 has been out for a long time. And if you try to tie the brand new Xbox to a really old OS, that wouldn't work. If you launched the Xbox at the same time as them launching the next version of Windows, and it was the Xbox 12, Windows 12, like if they just went to all of that, I could see, it's a higher number than 6, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, Xbox with plus Copilot, that would be a disaster. If they used the Copilot branding here, that would be one of the worst outcomes. So yeah, they'll probably do that. But I think I think if it has any kind of name that references AI, I think that's a real non-starter. I think that's a real if they called it the Xbox AI, that'd be a miserable future for all of us. But that's I don't know. I think that's clearly where Microsoft as an organization is placing all of its bets, right? I mean, with the amount of money that they have invested into OpenAI and whatever ownership they have over, that company's output as a result of those investments, like they are in it. So yeah, I don't know, the Copilot, like if they tried to slap the Copilot name on the Xbox, I think that would be a miserable situation to be in. I would be, yeah, I don't want that Xbox. That's not an Xbox I would want if you were making one that was like, it was leaning in on that specific style of AI, right? If you're just like, it's got all these LLMs and all this other, it'll talk to you. And like, no, man. Like that ship has sailed. That ship has sailed. And by the time we're talking about a new Xbox anyway, that will surely not seem like something they could lean on marketing wise. That's not going to stop them from doing it if that was a thing, but like, Jesus, that would be really disgusting, I think, if they ended up going down that road that way. But yeah, I think that you have to make it sound sexy. You have to make it sound competitive. You have to make it sound like I said, sleek. Like in some ways, it is kind of car naming, if you think about it. But like I think they took that a little too literally with the Series X type of stuff. So I don't know what the right answer is there. I'm sitting here trying to think, like, what would be what would even be like a direction you would want to go in. But I guess all I can come up with is like, hey, you want to name it, you want to name it in a way that makes it sound powerful and desirable. But also, you are probably going to, if we're realistic about what the next Xbox ends up being, it is still probably multiple machines, even if one's a handheld, right? So if we think about smart delivery and everything else, like you have to imagine that games being put out by developers will probably have to run on 3 machines at a minimum, right? Whatever the new one is, the Series X and the Series S. And maybe the handheld ends up being a Series S level of power or something. So they technically remove a SKU that way, and you only have to plan for 3 or whatever. I don't know. That sounds like a fucking mess, man. I think if anything, the thing I want, and I suspect you will feel the same way, but I don't know that the market at large would necessarily agree with it. The thing I want is a cleaner break, a cleaner division. Yes, backwards compatibility matters. It matters more all the time, but there needs to be a solid reason for people to do these upgrades. There needs to feel like an immediate, and they're talking about how this is going to be powerful and it's a leap forward, and like the little of their hand they have tipped on a new Xbox has been like, oh, we're gonna really go out, but like what they mean by power could mean a lot of different things. So it's kind of hard to say, but I think they need to have something that feels like a clean break from their past. I'll still it's hard to serve all these masters, right? It needs to feel like a clean break from the fuck ups of the last decade plus, while also still running all of those games. So you kind of need to have it both ways, but it needs to feel like something that you immediately need to run out and buy, and they've never done that. And I guess at the end of the day, the Xbox brand doesn't need to do that. So like if you think about the Xbox situation, if you think about the Xbox as a platform, the Xbox as an ecosystem, everything they've done undermines their ability to do what we're talking about. And I think it undermines it in service of reaching more players. And so I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. But it's not like they're going to come out with a console and say, by the way, none of these games are coming out on PC, right? I don't think they're going to walk all that shit back and be like, PC Game Pass is about to get fucking a lot worse, I guess. Whoops. Because this Xbox is too powerful, and also it runs ARM now, so double fuck you. Or whatever. Like, hey, we changed architecture in a way that like these games will be hard to make them work on other platforms. That would not work. And so that convenience, I think, is a huge upside for them. Let people play where they are. Let people play the way they want to play, whether that's cloud streaming, whether that's on PC, whether that's on console, whether that's on an eventual handheld. Developers obviously don't necessarily love having to make their Xbox games for fucking 2 different Xboxes. So if you're suddenly having to make it for 3 or 4 different ones because you keep the Series X and S in the mix while also having a handheld, you're going to have to come to them with a sales story that says, no, these consoles are going to sell. It'll be worth it for you to do this work because there will be a lot of people playing games on these machines. That's been where the story is broken down, right? That's when you hear about third parties griping about Xbox support. That's where that comes from, is they're just like, I don't want to fucking dick around with this. Like, I hate having to do this extra work for all of these different machines when Xbox is clearly in third place, and why are we even doing this? And is it worth it for us to... Like, you don't want developers to ever have to ask those questions, and they used to not, unless they were based in Japan. That's a whole different thing, and that's a different thing now than it was then. But you want it to be the absolute no-brainer of just like, yeah, our game's coming out on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Of course it is. Duh. I mean, yeah. If you've got, when you've got third parties, and sometimes major third parties, starting to question why are they doing this, it's not a good place to be. You want them asking those questions about Nintendo, because that has been the Nintendo question for a very long time, right? It's been like, well, people that buy Nintendo systems don't want to play our style of third-party game on it, so we're not going to do it. And also, we'd have to make a bunch of cuts. So if you had a more powerful Nintendo console in the mix again, you'd eliminate the technical part of it, but you would still have the these games don't sell on Wii U. No one cares. Like, yeah, we can put Mass Effect out and Batman on the Wii U, but no one's ever going to give a shit. Or, you know, even GameCube to a certain extent. That's when the fortunes seem like they started to change in terms of just third-party success on Nintendo platforms. You know, the Wii was a situation where the third parties who succeeded did so because they were making Game Party for the Wii, and Take-Two cleaned up, and, you know, like whatever else. But like, there were plenty of like, oh, we're putting Madden on the Wii. It's like, yeah, go for it, I guess. I don't know. That'll sell fine, but like a lot of this other stuff, you know, people that buy Nintendo platforms do it to play Nintendo games. And that's the thing that, you know, as you're right now, probably as you're getting ready to announce and launch your next console, I imagine if you were in the third party department, you would be out there as you're doing disclosures, as you're kind of walking people through what the new console is or whatever, if they're doing that, or I don't know if they're doing that on a wide scale right now. It sounds like some people have been walked through it at least. Then part of that pitch has to be why. Because if you look at the Switch and how some of those, like, quote unquote big console games did on the Switch, sales wise, no one was there. It was a lot of work probably to put Doom on the Switch or whatever, right? But for who? And so at a time when the market, you know, the business is going through a lot of weird shit and everyone is scrutinizing everything all the time, they're going to ask those questions. Should we do this? Is this something we should even bother doing? Like, is it worth it for us to put these games on an Xbox if the Xbox is not selling anymore? You know, whatever it is. So yeah, I don't know. But name wise, I would err on the side of coming up with something that sounds cool. I know that's a bold claim. I know. But I think it's got to be a name that distances itself from the existing naming strategy so that it sounds new and fresh and exciting all over again, to the extent that they can accomplish that. But also, it still needs to be backwards compatible and all of that same stuff. Oh, let's see. Marie writes in and says, Valve should reboot Half-Life, except this time Gordon talks. That's it. I just think it'd be really funny for Valve to make a new Half-Life only to unveil that. Yep. That'd be funny. But it should be an inner monologue. He shouldn't talk, but it should just be like this constant low, like, get a load of this guy. I think this is fucking alien? That's Barney. What a prick. What a fucking dickhead, man. Like, oh, sorry, did you fail out of the police academy? Now you're a fucking dipshit security guard? Ugh. Boozers. That's what I would do. No, I don't know. Again, I think that I think you have Gordon speak once at the end of it. I have always felt this way. I have felt this way for at least a decade, if not more. For probably at least the last 15 years, I have thought that the Half-Life franchise needs to end because Gordon opened his mouth and shouted no. And then the entire universe shatters around him and everyone is saved or dead or both, depending on what kind of story you want to tell. But it is just like some real heinous shit happens and he just goes, no! And then reality fucking splits apart and it turns out that was the secret the whole time. It's not a good, that's not a good, that's an ending that gets worse as the years go on, but I still think that's the right answer. Or yes, it's a time travel story and G-Man is just an older version of Gordon Freeman. That's why he's called the G-Man. It's G for Gordon. I'm sure someone has probably written pages and pages of theory about that shit by now, right? They would have had to. Mason in Virginia writes in with some ice cold shit. Is Call of Duty the Maroon 5 of the game industry? Both are very popular by the mass of consumers, and both are hated by the internet. If not, what is the Maroon 5 of gaming? Jesus Christ. No. Alma in the chat says Maroon 5 is more like Concord. Someone says Borderlands. League of Legends. Is League of Legends the Maroon 5? See, I feel like League of Legends is a weird, is kind of a weird game. It's like, it's a game that a lot of people play, obviously, but to actually be good at it takes a lot of fucking work. I guess, yeah, Call of Duty, you could sort of say something similar. I don't know. It's probably Madden, right? I mean, like, I don't, just to actually like fucking break it down. And this is the sort of thing that's going to operate in different ways in different circles, right? But I would say like Maroon 5 is a band that I don't think I know a single person that would ever say, yeah, I like Maroon 5, or yeah, I listen to Maroon 5. At most, you might say like, Maroon 5 is a couple of catchy songs. Sure. I feel like that's the most you would grant them. Similarly, I would say I don't really, at this point, I don't think I know anyone who plays Madden. Not that Madden is like, and then Madden has had a lot of hits over the years. Maybe Madden is not as much of a maybe people are not as satisfied with Madden as they used to be. Tactical Truth says, wouldn't Call of Duty be like the Metallica of gaming or something? Kind of edgy but popular. Metallica is like dad edgy though, right? I mean, Metallica was maybe edgy 30 years ago, which maybe I would say the same thing about Call of Duty. Maybe that makes more sense. Maybe that makes more sense. I don't know. But yeah, nothing about Metallica is edgy. They're, they're a metal band. Like that gives it an edge, but like it's, they're anyone that thinks Metallica is edgy is like my age or older, right? But like, I don't know, Metallica hasn't been edgy. I mean, when was Metallica legitimately edgy? It was like Ride the Lightning era. Like it's got to be like pre-Black Album, right? Like it's got to be like, yeah, it's got to be like when Master of Puppets came out. You're like, holy shit. But like nothing, yeah. And Justice for All was the album that like broke big for them, right? I mean, that was the big mainstream pivot. I mean, not necessarily by design, but like between MTV and whatever else, like Metallica became. Yeah, I guess the Black Album was more, yeah. But like that's when Metallica became like the fucking. Yeah, when one came out, like that was it. Like that was like suddenly like you knew, like I was in junior high at that point, right? When did that come out? Yeah, August 88. And one came out and became like one of the biggest fucking songs in the world. Overnight, seemingly, someone who didn't fucking know what the fuck a Metallica really was, or, like I'd heard of Metallica, but wasn't like, I didn't give a shit about that. I was like, have you heard the new Too Short tape? Because that's what fucking matters, man. It's not whatever this fucking bullshit is. But like one was massive. One was massive in like cheerleaders knew about it. Like that song was so big, it like, if there was any tension or fucking any juice in Metallica as like a fucking legitimately edgy fucking thing, that top 40 number one fucking whatever, that single was like, and that was that. Metallica was a different thing on the other side of that, whether they wanted it or not. That's not, I'm not saying they sold out. I'm not saying that they fucking did anything. I knew people who were Metallica fans well before that song hit, and they stayed fans. They might have griped about it a little bit in the same way that people complained about, like, when Green Day signed to a major label, that kind of sellout sort of thing. But between one and then Enter Sandman, like a little bit, like, that shit blew up in such a huge way. All my fucking weird jean jacket wearing, fucking denim vest wearing dudes that I hung out with, stayed Metallica fans. Maybe some of them began like, well, I'm more into Megadeth. Like, there was definitely like a shift at some point where some people had to say that they were way more into Megadeth. They're like, yeah, peace sells, but think about it, man. But who's buy? Think about it. And I think that they made great music, and at that time, like, I don't, like, whatever. Like, I think that they made great, very accessible music that like, those songs blew up for a fucking reason. Like, they're fucking massive fucking songs, dude. They're incredible. And that led to me going back and listening to like older Metallica and being like, no, this is, I'm kind of into this. Like, I'm not necessarily like, my pathway into any piece of like metal anything was through a couple of friends I had in high school, but also in junior high as well. But also Anthrax's I'm the Man, the rap novelty hit they had, made me aware of what Anthrax was, because that song got played a little bit on MTV as well. And you're just like, oh, okay, these guys are like they're joking about hip hop, but they're aware of, like, they're legitimately aware of it. And then obviously they would go on, because they would mention Public Enemy in there, or like, and then Public Enemy would mention Anthrax in Bring the Noise. And then they would go and do that version, like the metal version of Bring the Noise, which people love. But the original version of that song, the actual Public Enemy song, is so good. And the weird, jokey Anthrax version of it, I think, is overblown. I appreciate their enthusiasm for the material, but no, I'm the Man. That's fun. But them getting together with Public Enemy, as much as that was like a watershed moment, watershed moments in rap rock history. The Awakening, the Judgment Night soundtrack, I'm the Man, Anthrax and Public Enemy. A billion terrible bands were launched on the backs of these hits. Later, they would claim to all be influenced by Run DMC and Aerosmith doing Walk This Way, because that's where the credibility lived. Yeah. Ah, yes, the white hip-hop fan. What a wonderful specimen. All right. Let's get one more email in here. Oh, let's see. Let's erase that one since we read it. Yeah, all right. I'm not gonna. Josh in Mahoney Bay? Mahone Bay? Mahoney Bay. Let's say Mahoney Bay. Probably Mahone Bay. Yes. Some would say Mike Patton is the godfather of rap rock. Squeeze Me Macaroni, the Mr. Bungle classic.
When Ice-T and Body Count recorded Cop Killer. It was not.
Yeah, I guess that all kind of happened.
When the Bloodhound Gang got rid of Daddy Longlegs and recorded Fire Water Burn.
Josh writes in and says, I was introduced to, asks, what was the last light gun game? I was introduced to the genre through Ghost Squad on the Wii, which opened me up to House of the Dead, Time Crisis, Vampire Knight, etc. Oh, God, yeah.
Anthony Kiedis, a key figure in the white guy hip-hop fan pipeline. Now that guy is funky.
Dead Space Extraction felt like the last totally on-rails light gun style game. I'm sure VR has some good on-rails shooters, but I'm going to say it isn't a light gun game unless the camera moves you. Do you have any insight on where this genre is at? Yeah, I mean, if you want to disqualify VR, because there was an Operation Wolf game that came out not that long ago in VR. It was not good, but they did it. But yeah, they made way more Time Crisis games than you think. And so that kind of lasted a lot longer. But I don't know what the you know, like, obviously, yeah, when we changed from CRTs to more modern screens, a lot of the technology had to change, but, you know, arcades were able to keep up with that, and that stuff is still happening. I mean, that Halo, that big sit-down Halo thing, the 6-player Halo arcade game, 5-player, whatever it is, that massive monstrosity of a cabinet is technically a light gun game. They will probably still make more games for arcades. I'm sure that is still something that's happening and will continue to happen. But VR, you know, yeah, if you're going to disqualify VR, I mean, there are plenty of games where your movement in VR is restricted. Obviously, you can still move your head to aim in any direction. So if you're counting that as disqualifying it, then I would say okay. But, like, there are plenty of games like a Pistol Whip or whatever, or even Space Pirate Trainer is a static, you know, you don't really move ever, like Duck Hunt. But things can happen all around you, and so you are kind of incentivized to turn around and whatever else. So, you know, I guess, you know, if that doesn't count, then that doesn't count. But yeah, that Halo game came out in arcades, and I'm sure that there's probably been a dozen or so since then. But that game is called Halo Fire Team Raven. From your friends at Raw Thrills. And that's a big 4-player cabinet. Now, I guess they make it in multiple. There's a 2-player, a 4-player, and then like an environmental, which means, you know, you can kind of stand inside the thing and sit down. Featuring iconic Halo assault rifle controllers, 55-inch 4K display. Players can easily link their Xbox Live gamer tag via QR code for exclusive stats and rewards on Halo Waypoint. What? Can I unlock fucking gun skins in Halo Infinite? I don't know. No, that's an old document because that game is not new. That game was at least 2019-ish, if not older, because the only place I've ever seen that cabinet is at the Santa Monica Pier. There's an arcade on the Santa Monica Pier. And I have not been there since there was an E3, because I have not been there since there was an E3 Judges Week. So that's probably 2019, if not 2018, because Judges Week was always in Santa Monica. There you have it. Davis writes in and says, what's the best Call of Duty? I'm not talking about the most influential. That's obviously original Modern Warfare. But where did Call of Duty peak? Was it Modern Warfare 2? You can shoot down UAVs. You could make a case for Modern Warfare 2. You could probably make a case for Black Ops 1 or 2. I think you could make a case for the Modern Warfare, the new Modern Warfare 1, 2019, when they did all that work to rebuild it. Big Red 1 for the PlayStation 2, obviously super influential. No. But yes, the 2019 game, the Modern Warfare, like I think you could make a case for that one. They did amazing work on that game. And then, Modern Warfare 2, I think the more recent ones of those built on that pretty well. And then Modern Warfare 3, I think, built on that not nearly as well. Is Ghosts the worst? If it's not Ghosts, it's probably Modern Warfare 3 the first time around. Or I could maybe say Black Ops 4. World War II is another. Yeah, Vanguard is the one. The campaign in Vanguard is the first campaign in Call of Duty that I haven't finished since 2007. I never did go back and finish the Vanguard campaign. Vanguard got weird over time. Like they put Snoop Dogg into it and they put a bunch of fucking laser guns and all this other dumb shit into it. So when you go back to Vanguard now, it's better than it was when it launched. Or it's weirder and more fun and chaotic at least. But yeah, best, like where did it peak? I don't know. I feel like they've had multiple peaks. I think that's definitely been an ebb and flow kind of franchise, right? I mean, Modern Warfare and because of the way they developed it with Black Ops and Modern Warfare kind of happening, concurrently, the way they were developed and year in, year out, like they had some really fascinating fucking years. Or stretches of years, I guess I would say, where you had Modern Warfare 2. And then not long after that, we got to Black Ops. But again, I think Modern Warfare 3 was a really disappointing game. Like it's still good. It's a weird thing because it's a situation where like when we're talking about reviews of these games, it's like, hey, like this is still Call of Duty. Like it still runs the way you want it to run. Like it's okay. Ghosts, I feel like, is a situation where I just didn't want to engage with it because of the changes they made to it mechanically. And so I think Ghosts is a pretty big low point. I think that Modern Warfare 3, from a campaign perspective, does a really bad job of wrapping up the events of Modern Warfare 2. I think it's like embarrassing the way that game ends for how big of a deal that thing became. And I think the multiplayer is not super engaging compared to a lot of the other games, just, map quality, whatever else. Like the maps in Modern, I could not tell you the single name of a fucking Modern Warfare 3 map. Infinite Warfare is interesting because the campaign is really cool and weird, but I think the multiplayer is really fucking bad. Infinite Warfare might be Call of Duty at its greediest. Actually, that's not true because every day it's greedier than it is the day before now. But like for its day, Infinite Warfare was, when they were selling like supply cases and all this other blind box bullshit, which they did for a stretch of years. You can go back. There's Black Ops games that have that stuff too. There's some really rough stuff in that mid period there, one way or the other. And I think the multiplayer in Infinite Warfare, as much as they made changes to it and tried to do wall running and the other stuff they tried to do, I think the structure around it of like pick a rig and then pick a dude and then pick a this and like that stuff, I think really sucked. Compared to the average year for Call of Duty. Black Ops 3 and 4, when they tried to change it into something resembling a hero shooter and you had character-specific abilities, I think that was a bad choice for them. I think that was a really bad choice for them. Vanguard is a real low point. Black Ops 2 is a good time. Black Ops 1 is quite good. But yeah, I don't know. I in terms of just like the best one, the peaks, I think we've got eras, right? It's a franchise that's lived long enough that it does have like multiple peaks over its eras, right? They rebooted the whole thing. They saved it in a lot of ways with that Modern Warfare reboot. That was a franchise that felt like it was, you know, they were still making a lot of money, but it didn't feel vital the way it had been. It felt like it was really falling apart, kind of hitting the skids a little bit. And then they said, check this shit out. We let Infinity Ward do the thing that they needed to do. And they did everything they needed to do to freshen that game up in a way that now lets them hit the skids again. I don't think Modern Warfare 3 is like a great game. It has better maps and modes, and they've done cool stuff to it. But like right now, it's kind of off. I think the stuff they're showing for the new one, for Black Ops 6 sounds really compelling. Omnidirectional movement and dives and all of that stuff sounds really interesting to me. And I really want to see how that goes for them. Of course, they spend all this time talking about like, oh, round-based zombies are back, and it's like, I don't care. I don't care. That's good that round-based zombies is back, because the open world, the Warzone zombie stuff they did last time, no one cares. But like, I don't. I'm gonna try that mode like twice and be like, oh yeah, look, it's a vending machine, and I got some goo gums, and I ate this and did this, and we shot the zombies, and then I gotta fix this window, and I don't want to fucking do any of that shit. Or rather, I don't want, like, that's not Call of Duty to me. You want to take that and put it somewhere else, maybe, you know, like, all right, but I don't like it being a full third of Call of Duty. I don't want it. I don't want it. Anyway, that's going to do it for the show. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Like I said, yeah, thank goodness You're Here is out now. That's a quality product for sure. This week, I was going to play some stuff that now has been since pushed back, and the dates have changed. So I don't know. I got to figure out what we're going to do Wednesday. We'll play some video games, and then on Friday, we'll rank some video games. Next week's podcast will be weird. I'm not sure what the right answer is here. I got to think about it and look at some times and some dates. But the Gamescom opening night live will be happening at 11 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday. So basically 1 hour into the podcast, Keely's extravaganza will begin. And so we will watch that, and we will talk about that, and I will figure out what that means for the podcast in terms of, will it be a shorter podcast, because there's probably not going to be a lot of news this week unless it's leaks for the Gamescom show. But yeah, we'll talk over let's next week we'll watch the Gamescom show together and talk all about all the farming simulators that they have and how wonderful they all are. And yeah, we'll check that out. And then yeah, I don't know, podcast will fit in around that in some way, shape, or form. Maybe we record it in 2 parts, and we do a Tuesday morning and then a Wednesday morning. I don't know. A lot of different options here. I'll pick one and then I'll let you know. But long story short, I'll be here normal time on Tuesday at least. And then we'll at 11, we'll check out the Gamescom business and see what the hell's going on in Germany. Always a good, what the hell's going on in Germany? Always, when people are asking that, we're on the right track. All right, everybody. See you for the podcast next week. See you tomorrow for, whatever, some video games. And then Friday, we'll rank some hot 8-bit games. I hope they're hot. And we could use some hot ones. Take care of yourselves.